Hi, everybody, and welcome. I'm so excited because this is Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans, what I am calling the 2025 semester, even though I recognize that right now it's just about the end of October, beginning of November 2024. But this is Level 1, Lesson 1. I was already giving a little Facebook intro today in order to describe that I initially started with my curriculum in two different strata, one level initiatory, talking about the basic ideas and the foundations of what it is necessary to comprehend so that you can begin to embody the Flying Rainbow Lasagne energy field in your own body. And then advanced or level two, which builds upon those foundation concepts. But a couple of years ago, I threw all that whole thing out the window because I used to make everybody do level one first and then sign up for level two and have two separate classes. But I mushed everybody together into one giant crock pot of lasagna flavors because my feeling is that we are in such an intense time of personal spiritual development, planetary development, and social dynamics and the events of the world that I don't want to hold back from you guys. So, welcome to my class. I will share information with you here that is literally not available anyplace else. It is my cosmic job joy to do so. I am, again, configured to do this here. It is totally my mission and my purpose for being here. It is also my total joy and pleasure. Like, I'm very, very happy to share this information with you, but I'm always certain to make sure that my information remains accessible, meaning I don't want it to be something that is only for a small segment of the population or only for people that have financial resources. I really try to make it as available as I can while maintaining my integrity because you can't find this anywhere else. And I'm never trying to be like salesperson and saying like this offer not available in stores, order yours now, and then some kind of flashing, sign on your screen. No, I'm very genuine. I'm very, very genuine. The information that I have to share in this class is original to my insight, but I cannot take full responsibility for it. I can say I am the innovator of the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, but I cannot say that I am the innovator of the entire chakra system, the entire color system, and everything else that are the foundation concepts that I'm going to teach about. All right. But the other teachers that you have here in this world right now can teach about chakras, but it has been a very amorphous and feelings-based teaching. And the anthropomorphic subjective realm is valid and positive, but it's only a very, very small slice of the pie of comprehension. And I hope you guys also know, like so many returning students, but some new students, but you guys already know that I'm very lighthearted and sometimes casual in my language, like if I talk about your pie of comprehension, but I'm talking about deep stuff, all right? Even though sometimes I will be silly intentionally because we need to use humor and lightheartedness to be able to share these deep concepts and not have it be like a huge burden, like weighing you down and be like, no, this is fun and cool. But lots of people talk about chakras. They talk about them as if they are glowing balls of light. They talk about them as if they are feeling realms, and that's not accurate. So, what I have to share with you and with humanity in general is a very, very accurate view of what the chakra system is or are, how you relate to that as a somatic cellular presence, how you relate to that as consciousness on a journey, which is essentially what your soul is, and how all of those foundation viewpoints about the structure and the architecture of reality add up to the shape that is known as the Flying Rainbow Lasagna. So this is my contribution and my innovation to the language that I will be teaching you guys in class this year. In every year that I've taught this, I have had a different focus or emphasis. And I always follow the same curriculum, but I don't always teach it in the same way. So also, I put this up on my YouTube channel, and I sometimes am very cautious about my language that I choose so that way I'm like daintily stepping over any puddles or unmentionable things. My pinkies are up that we're not allowed to talk about. And I'm very, very silly when I say that. But you know what I'm talking about. Many, many unmentionables. But I've maintained my channel with my careful vocabulary choices because I have many, many semesters that I want to invite and encourage you to go back into, because I don't always do my presentations exactly the same every year. So maybe there might be a lesson, like whatever, one of my lessons about the Merkaba. And you're like, that was an interesting lesson that Aurora taught in here now in the 2025 semester. I wonder what she was teaching about in 2018. And you can still find my 2018 semester, and everything's organized by playlists here on YouTube. And I want you to do that. But I also want you to know that I would be not responsible in my position as a self-proclaimed professor here and as a person influencing or guiding other people's minds if I only stuck to my lesson plan that I developed 10 years ago, because our entire landscape, both our emotional and cognitive and biological landscape, have all changed and shifted in light of the bad doo-doos that we are facing in our world. And wait, I have to grab a marker because I wanted to write down. Sorry, I just stepped away from the camera. Should have prepared for class, but I actually have all of my digital stuff is all prepared. But I'm going to write a new thing on here because I'm sometimes saying this, but I think that I should just write it down. My notepad of doo-doos. That stuff right there. All right. These are some of the things that I don't say because I just want to be able to not face I want my stuff to be able to reach people effectively and not to be diminished in what I'm sharing. So all of those things on my notepad have made the journey of spiritual attainment like exponentially more difficult. I would be very irresponsible as a teacher if I was just like, oh, yes, just refer to my work from 10 years ago. La, 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 let's go off and have a picnic. It's like, no, that is not good enough because you currently have like boulders on top of you or many obstacles that are preventing your effective acceleration to light speed and beyond, and making it even more challenging for you to initiate the jump into a higher dimensional existence or experience. That is what the Flying Rainbow Lasagna is. So it is hard. I don't want to drive anyone away, but I want to give you an honest assessment. It was a lot easier for me to lasagna 10 years ago than it is for me to lasagna now. I'm hydrating. Thank you. And I'm expert lasagna. And I'm like, wow, it's kind of hard to do this right now with all this doo-doos around here. So for you guys as beginners, I want you to know that you are very noble, brave, and courageous. You are starting off and, initiating something that is very difficult under these circumstances. Maybe an analogy would be like trying to start a fire when it's very damp outside. Your kindling is damp and all of your stuff and even like your fingers are kind of like damp and slippery, like very non-optimum lasagna conditions right now. But I believe in you and you can do it. And not only can you do it, but you must do it. And why am I saying that? It is necessary to create a new path to be able to supersede the limitations that consciousness suppressors and consciousness suppressing various agendae are bringing to this world. So some of those might be individuals, organisms, or organizations that are trying to suppress your consciousness, prevent your self-knowledge, prevent your self-empowerment. And they are very naughty. And the Flying Rainbow Lasagna is the tool that I can present to you that will allow you to supersede any of their obstacles. So it's like saying, bad guys are putting roadblocks in the path of your spiritual attainment. And the Flying Rainbow Lasagna is a way that you can make detours around their roadblocks, or turn your car that's like a regular street car on the ground into a helicopter car that you can fly up and over their crappy roadblocks and get to where you need to get to. We're talking about genetic roadblocks. And you guys know about something that I will not mention with words, but I call them sometimes the subcutaneous pollutions, the things that have been put inside of people since the worldwide health crisis of 2020. And those things have a direct impact on DNA. And this shape, Flying Rainbow Lasagna, is all about your free feral, beautiful and divinely connected genetic behavior. I'm going to put down my stuff so that I can kind of do my dance. So this semester, the next 9 months are devoted to me emphasizing everything in my curriculum that I possibly can about how you can flying rainbow lasagna. First up, it's a concept, it's a shape, it's a verb. So it's both a noun and a verb. Next concept, your DNA is a dynamic object. These are things that this is intro. So this is actually just me doing an overview, and I will jump into level 1, lesson 1 stuff. But I want to just give you some good points of emphasis, and it's always worth it to revisit these things, these concepts, even if you've been in my class for a long time. And so much like welcome home and celebration for everybody who's a returning student, because I'm so pleased for some people who have been in my class for many, many consecutive years. So I'm always pleased for that. It's worth it to revisit these concepts because you will always have a new insight from a new perspective as you've grown and changed, and your viewpoint of how you look at the world, you have grown and evolved. And then when I present to you again those same foundation concepts, you'll be like, maybe something new. So yes, new insights will arise. So thank you for making yourself available to those new insights. Thank you for attenuating with your tendril of attention back to these concepts. So first concept is the flying rainbow lasagna relates to your DNA. The flying rainbow lasagna relates directly also to this shape, which also relates to your DNA. This shape is what we're going to be talking about today, but we're really going to talk about it all throughout the whole entire class. And you can see, hopefully, the echoes or reverberations of this shape all in all of my artwork. Like this is one discrete version of what you see here. Many of them back there. Oh, let's see, you got one back there. You can see a bunch of them back there. And then you can see that's the one that I'm presently working on. And I will show you some more artwork as we get into the actual curriculum. But what I need to emphasize with words is that you're connected to time through your DNA. So your DNA is often presented as nearly a blueprint for protein structures, and that is highly reductionist, not fully accurate, and not adequate to be able to really talk about in a meaningful way what DNA is doing in your body, what you are doing with your DNA, how you are affecting the world with your DNA. So your DNA is more than just something that determines, let's say, the color of your eyes, if you have brown eyes or blue eyes. It is more than just something that determines like the size of your skeleton. DNA is a dynamic object inside of your body that is literally a bridge of light, which is information between your cellular somatic form of physicality matter and your time presence of the potentials of time, possibilities, and probabilities, which is what your chakras are. All right. Now we're already into the zone of things that like no one else talks about because no one else knows about them. So I'm not diminishing anybody else. Like they're all doing the best they can, but they literally don't have this aspect of the recipe. I have the exact measurements of the recipe so you can know what is going on. And I'll get to your comments too, but right now I have them off the side of the screen because I get easily distracted. Look, a squirrel. Don't let me do that. So I'm staying focused. So this is what DNA is. It is dynamic. Inside, here's your cell membrane. Then inside of that is your nucleus, your nuclear membrane. Inside of your nuclear membrane, you've got super purified water and the tendrils of your DNA. They're not always tightly coiled up into an X or a Y-shaped chromosome. That's actually a very small part of the lifespan of what DNA is doing. For most of its life, it is like a sweater that has been unfurled, or all of the loops pulled out of the knitting of the sweater. And then it becomes this giant quivering mass of, it's not just quivering, it's dancing. It has undulative forms and it has a pattern and a language to what it's doing, to how it's moving. It has a meaningfulness. the meaning and the language has to do with which letters of the DNA come next to each other. Just like when you create written word books or poetry, some things are explicit and some things are evocative. That's why I said like books or poetry, because you could have like a how-to manual, but that's different than like Shakespeare, right? Like these two things are different, but they are the formation and the orderliness of the letters conveys information. As your DNA is doing its beautiful dance inside of you, it is conveying different levels of information. And the information is not just about what your body is shaped like, it's about what reality is shaped like. It's about what the events of your life are, what you're going to inhabit in each moment. So even something simple like you get in your car to drive to the store and you're going to buy coconut milk or oranges. That is a story that is written in your DNA. And the dance of your DNA, if it changes and shifts, can shift the events of your day. You can maybe get a flat tire. This is something bad that happens while you're trying to get to the store. Or you can have the most magical experience of synchronicities. Maybe you get to the store and you see someone you haven't seen in 10 years and you have a wonderful moment of catching up. Or maybe you get to the store and somebody like, whatever, they drop their keys and you pick it up and hand it to them and it's the love of your life. You look into each other's eyes and you fall instantly in love, all right? Like all sorts of things can happen. Every single one of these potentialities is a direct result of how your DNA is dancing, how the letters or codes of your DNA are aligning and shifting internally. And that shifting behavior has everything to do with your feeling state. So what humanity has not effectively comprehended for a long time is that your feeling state affects your DNA in more than just the sense of exhibiting disease. People are very recognizing that some diseases, especially what are called genetic diseases like cancer, which is like a transcriptional error mutation type of behavior of DNA, that those are here's what happened. I kind of lost my train of thought because I came up upon a wall where someone was like, well, no, technically cancer is coming from parasitosis. And this is truthful because I can hear you guys in your mind and I want to be super accurate. So I want you to know cancer is not just the end result of your DNA dancing in certain behaviors. It is absolutely connected to the effect of your environment upon you, including your food, air, water, and exposure to parasites. Yes, yes, yes. So thank you. And I hope that anyone who's telepathic is like, she really is telepathic. Good. But it's not that simple. It is also about your feelings that turn on or activate or deactivate genes in your body. So, for example, if someone tells you, abandon hope, stop trying, your DNA changes in its dance. If you're like, oh, I'm abandoning hope, like I give up on life, your DNA goes from like this exuberant combination of letters into a very limited combination of letters that says, oh, disease and death and being a decomposing, rotting corpse are all inevitable. Kind of like give up hope, just whatever. Go to your bed and eat cookies until you pass away and no longer live in existence. I'm being very joking, of course. But that deactivates that thought structure and feeling structure deactivates certain aspects of your DNA that are all about self-healing, detoxification, transformation on a somatic level, being able to build and rejuvenate and all these things. So it's just like this. If someone said to you, the roof of your house leaks, there's nothing we can do. Just deal with it until your house falls apart completely from, the inevitable rot that will happen. then it's like, okay, then that's going to be your reality. But if you believe, well, wait a minute, I think I can repair this leak in my roof. I think I can get like building materials or work together with others or climb up on a ladder and do this thing, and I can make it stop leaking. And then my house can last for many, many years. Like that is exactly the analogy for your body. And your genetic behavior is largely the determinant, is determined by your emotional realm and your feelings and your expectations, and it is the determinant of your reality. So your emotions and intellectual expectations have a big impact on what type of a dance your DNA is doing. Cue the lasagna, because coming here and being in my class, welcome, 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 means that you're exposing yourself to a new set of ideas that makes your DNA dance in a new pattern. Because I'm about to tell you that not only can you get out to Home Depot and buy like a tarp and hammer and nails and fix the roof, and make it not leak anymore. I'm like, you can build a new wing. Like literally, you can build two wings and you can levitate. You can build like a lot of cool stuff on top of your house. I was joking about the levitation because I call it flying, but you will comprehend that I'm not talking about flying in third dimensional space, like length with height type of space, but I am talking about flying or transiting through time. But I'm sometimes lighthearted. Yes, you can get all sorts of building materials and change and transform what your body container is, and also what your life experience is, and also what your reality experience is. Because what good does it do to you if you're like, yes, I perfectly created my house, your body, and now it's in the best shape and everything like that, but like barbarian marauders come through your neighborhood and knock over your mailbox and break all your windows and everything like that. You're like, I just did that. I just went to Home Depot. Don't mess up my stuff. Who's the barbarian marauders? That stuff that's coming through. That stuff that I don't refer to overtly, because it's all connected, and the regime and the agenda behind it is all connected. But that their stuff is a dark magic attempt. Dark magic is also high tech to influence or take over the natural free expression of your DNA, as your DNA is connected to a series of divine narratives, divine stories about your life, and to put in poop stories like doo-doo, bad stories about your life. So like when you go to the grocery store, the story where you get a flat tire, that might not be a divine story. That might be a bunch of doo-doos trying to make something bad happen to you in your life, or a car accident, or whatever. Your transmission explodes and doesn't work anymore and costs you thousands of dollars to get it fixed. Those are all negative narratives. Positive narratives, like, reading a friend or meeting the love of your life, those are divinely ordained, creative, wonderful narratives, because we're really talking about like your evolution, longevity, and coherence. Those are the things that I'll always talk about in this class, instead of talking about amorphous, subjective feeling states, which I kind of want you to think that I'm diminishing you as a person, because everybody likes to be like acknowledged and your feelings recognized and things like that. But I'm talking about math. So, when I talk about what is positive and what is negative, people will be like, positive things are like ice cream and kittens. I'm like, yes, those are very positive, but let's talk about the math that is involved in ice cream and kittens and puppies. And the math is basically longevity and coherence. Both of those things, puppies and ice cream, they represent the coherence and the longevity of joy. When you experience and embody a certain frequency that is in your DNA, that is the frequency of joy, and also in your energy field and in your time presence here, that is joy. We're talking about a frictionless bliss that happens from being in alignment with your optimum set of variables that are the things that can happen to you in time. I gotta hydrate. So happiness isn't random or arbitrary. The joy and the bliss that comes when you are in a frictionless state moving through time is a direct result of everything being optimized inside of you. That is like the divine presence, the divine intelligence has written a story, and you're 100% in alignment with the activities in that story, including that you are happy and healthy, you continue onward, you don't develop diseases, you live for a very long time, and you are positively connecting to the other organisms that are in your presence and your environment. That's longevity and coherence. Longevity, your light waves stick together. I will use my joke, like good waffles. It's what good waffles do. They stick together. And coherence, when you have these organized light waves, it means that a beam of light goes very far, like a laser that is very focused. You can beam it from here to miles away or even all the way up to the moon. But when things are not coherent, they are disarranged, moving in all these different angles, and then they lack longevity. They don't go very far. Those are time presences. So you can see when I talk about the math, I'm talking about the shape of time and these time presences that reduce consciousness, not only the quality of existence, but also how long that consciousness may continue to flow through time. So you optimize your flight through time by being able to align the standing waves of your body into greater levels of coherence that brings you towards greater levels of longevity. This is what you want your DNA to be doing. Very, very unfortunately, in this world, you have all sorts of things that are aligned to create incoherent waves, some of which are old and predate the present level of technology that you have in your world. So some of these obstacles have been going on for millennia, and some of them are also genetic implants that are old. We'll call them like OG, original gangsta. The old implants that came in maybe like 5,000 years ago, maybe stuff that was from ancient Sumeria, maybe stuff that was from ancient Egypt, things that are remembered as mere myths in your culture right now. But the human body has been spliced many, many times. And every time it has happened, it has been from ham-handed genetic engineers who don't know what the F they're doing and are doing bad stuff and messing around with your DNA, which is sacred architecture. They don't know what they're doing. They're like self-proclaimed carpenters. They're like, oh yeah, like I'm here to fix the thing. And they make it all crazy and the angles don't fit together at all. And they're like, okay, thank you very much. I'll take my money now. You pay them and they go away and the thing just like looks terrible and they did a terrible job. That is very bad. So like, for example, humans right now are very moving out of huge disempowerment and enslavement programs that have been placed into your DNA. So some of them are about the need to eat physicality food instead of eating pure light. Some of them are about limited lifespan. Some of them are about money, having to use money as an exchange system in your world. Some of them, so it's the domestication program that humans have been subjected to. Some of it is about worship, having an externalized God or authority figure that you are then expected to worship and listen to. That could be a king, that could be a government, that could be a religious leader, or the sense of God, it or himself as an anthropomorphic form, like not as just an abstract presence. What are some other things? The tendency to worship other species, like to look up to an angelic or a Pleiadian or a spiritual creature of some sort and to think that they are greater than you. And we're going to get into that today as it relates to the chakras and the colors of these levels of your being and how that relates to your body, and how for a long time in human history, humans were defined by red, orange, yellow. Should I do it now? I do want to do it now, but I'll just refer to it now. Red, orange, yellow. This is your physicality presence at the level of red, your emotional presence, which is mammalian emotion, at the level of orange, and your cognitive intellect at the level of yellow. And everything up from green was considered to be the higher self. That is, so I call this class Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans, because you are the entire full spectrum. You are everything from your physicality presence upward through your emotional and intellectual layers, but you are also green, which is the level of unconditional love, And this light blue, which is authenticity and communication, and deep blue, which is insight, and violet, which is your divine connection. I just went through that fast. I glossed over it. We will go more deeply into it and do pictures. But I want you to know that that entire array is you. And in the past, humans were only expected through their genetic limitations to identify with the lower aspects. And lower doesn't necessarily mean worse. It's like a lower note, like a low note, lo, 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 as opposed to a high note, which would be like, la, la, la. You were only expected to identify with the lower frequency aspects of yourself and to look at the other higher frequency aspects of yourself or of consciousness in general as something to be admired and or worshiped. That's a genetic tendency. So one of the very foundation things that I'm doing with my presence here and with what I'm teaching you is a rearrangement of your DNA through the ingestion of new ideas to express a new truth, which is that you claim the entirety of your being all the way up from your physicality presence to your divine connection, that all of this is you. So even in the writings of let's call it the New Age or the community of spiritual seekers, for many, many years, people would talk all about like my ego versus my higher self. And sometimes you will still see funny memes. I think funny should be in air quotes, but memes of people that are like this, me before I incarnated, and then my higher self, and the higher self, like you're like holding on for the roller coaster ride, and your higher self is up there laughing at you, like, yeah, like I'm screwing with you. So those are like, comedic, but they represent a real disconnect from the truthful nature of reality. You are not separate and distinct from your higher self at all. That is an artificial paradigm and an implanted alienation from self. Let me just drink. You can tell it's very, very dry. I walked cheeky before class so we could have lots of nice kid exercise. And I'm outside in the air. That's just like, it felt like everything was drying out. Everything was like my skin, my eyeballs, my throat, everything is very dry. So I'm just refocusing and collecting my thoughts for a moment. Flying Rainbow Lasagna makes it possible to reweave the threads of your DNA into a new format, like creating a new crochet or a new knitting or a new tapestry. And the threads themselves are not changed or discarded, but we're taking the ingredients of what you have and combining them into a completely new orderly form. So part of what I've already done in my work here for 20 years presenting these concepts is do an integration of your own sense of self and your own definition of self to include your physical presence and your animalistic presence as a mammal, but all the way up through the less dense or faster moving layers of who and what you are, even up to infinity and your divine connection. So the takeaway from that is you've already done a lot of work, and now there's a completely new discussion that's happening in the community of spiritual seekers, where you recognize like this is all you. This is all you. It's not just like some people would think like I'm the driver. I have the body. I drive it around. I do all sorts of things, but someone else is making all of this stuff happen. And then when the bad stuff happens, you always are like blaming someone else. You're like shaking your fist like this, like someone else, like, why did you do this to me? Right? Like that's the whole dynamic between your lower self and your higher self. But then the truth is like it is you, and you are building and influencing your own reality and structuring your own journey. But that doesn't mean that you are making hard stuff happen for yourself. You're not angry or irresponsible or capricious with yourself or vindictive with yourself or silly or malevolent with yourself. Your higher self really is loving, So now we don't even call it in this class higher self versus your ego state or your lower self. You just are yourself. And you know something, you are on a journey to fine tune reality and to optimize your experience and to figure things out. And you have to figure it out as you go. And the recipe is not conformity, it is customized for every person. So someone else's recipe is not going to work exactly for you because everybody has a unique genetic code. And that is something that we will continue to emphasize. Your genetic code is unique, just like your fingerprint is unique. You are unlike anybody else that is in this world. And that means that the solution to your DNA limitations and your attainment in freedom must be customized to you. So the Flying Rainbow Lasagne is a new dance pattern for your DNA. Your DNA is moving, grooving, twisting. It kind of like flips itself around. It whirls itself around. It splices itself into loops, which are called plasmids. Then it unsplices itself. It scrolls. It scrolls itself up, but sometimes it unscrolls itself. That's called methylation. It does all sorts of amazing fast level vibrations and also creates all of these interesting integrations, but it doesn't just stay in one pattern. The pattern is always moving and shifting. And the Flying Rainbow Lasagne is a new pattern. So key point to emphasize here, throughout time, your DNA has been doing a dance. I did not invent DNA or the dance of DNA. But what I am, it's like saying I didn't invent the concept of language. I didn't invent the ABCs, and I didn't invent like words and paragraphs. All of those things existed and predated me as Aurora. But what I did do is I invented or innovated a new thing within that pre-existing language. So the language of these circular forms, sine waves, standing waves, and toroidal energy field pre-existed me. And of course, I mastered them and embodied them as part of my journey as Aurora, otherworldly presence, and planetary protecting force field. All right. But what I did was to innovate a new thing with that pre-existing language. And in your world, language has grammar, but it also has some loose rules. But math is the thing that is very specific and not subjective. So math also has, it's a language that has an orderliness to it. It is not only international, it is really interdimensional, as opposed to like, there are many verbal language, English, French, Arabic. These are all verbal languages, and everybody will have their own unique experience of trying to communicate through them. But everybody can agree through the language of math, 1 + 1 = 2. All right. So I'm very comfortable on that level of working through these pure abstractions. What I wrote was like a new equation in the language of color, line, and shape, form, movement, texture, and tone. So that's what let's dive into the curriculum. My words did not work just then. Let's try it again. Let's dive in to the curriculum, because this is what this level 1, lesson 1 teaching is all about. The language of color. So you know what I'm talking about when I say color. Line, which, line can have all sorts of different qualities to it. It can be skinny, it can be fat, it can look like it's made out of chalk, it can look like it's made out of ink. Line can have all these different connotations to it. Movement, you know what I'm talking about with that, but movement can be a slow, beautiful movement, a fast, jerky movement, and everything in between, right? Texture, you're like, light has texture. I'm like, yeah, light has texture. Soft light, harsh light, focused light, unfocused light, different colors and qualities to light. And tone. I could turn on my piano. We could play a little bit of music. She's prepared for class. I have to change a setting over here. Hold on a second. Press a button. Let's play some music. Demonstrate to you what is a tone. I hope you can can hear that. That's tone. So when we're talking about the world of light, and now I'll turn off the buttons so that way there's no background music, even though I don't have to use my AC right now. I always had that setting off so you wouldn't be hearing my fan. But let's talk about this language, this higher dimensional language. It's not just about optical light, it's also about auditory light. That's what we perceive as music and tone, but we're really talking about an entire world of pure frequency. So I'm going to teach you today, and we'll emphasize again throughout the rest of this class, the concepts of how to measure frequency, which is basically wavelength and I already said the word frequency. How many waves a concept or a piece of information has, and how many waves pass a certain. I'm already losing you. We have to draw it for you. Okay, let's go to pictures instead of so many words. Picture time. Get ready. You're like, we're ready. I hear you. Okay, but first I have to get all these things. Wait, first of all, I do this just for privacy. And then I have to X this out, and I have to X this out. I'm telling you, I organized my whole entire screen. You can see it. It's starting to come. Here's my notes. But let's start off, first of all, with this. I thought I was going to do this one last, but I'm doing this one first. Okay, so this is a very well-known iconic painting that I did that is actually behind my head right there, but it's kind of dark and you can't see it effectively in my physical presence here. So this is what that painting looks like, and I'm even gonna zoom in so that you can really see what's going on here. So first of all, I hope you can see where I'm wiggling my cursor. This is Earth's toroidal torus, meaning donut-shaped energy field that I use little dots to be able to signify. It is called Earth's magnetosphere. It is the protective magnetic envelope that surrounds our beautiful planetary form. It is measurable to the five senses. It is part of the optical phenomenon in the sky that we know as the aurora borealis or aurora australis. Borealis is up here, North Pole. Australis down here, South Pole. And those are light phenomena that are visible due to the focusing of high energy particles that this force field is shielding around the planet. So this is a non-optically visible force field that becomes visible due to the phenomenon of illumination of the particles in the sky. So ordinarily you don't see Earth's magnetic field, but when the conditions are just right and the solar wind has an influx of these high energy particles, you see them superheating the gases and the plasmas at the poles, and that's how you know that it exists, okay? This protective force field around the planet is absolutely the foundation of biological life. If you didn't have this protective force field, it would be like trying to paint a beautiful painting, with like all delicate brush strokes while you're like in the middle of a gale force hurricane with all sorts of things blowing against your canvas. Like you wouldn't be able to do it. Biological life would not be able to evolve and grow into the levels of complexity and organization that we experience here if we were constantly bombarded by not only high energy radiation and particles, but also space junk. That's like comets, meteors, all sorts of debris that comes from the atmosphere and comes onto the surface of the planet. And because it causes a huge amount of disruption, it falls into the oceans and falls onto land masses, and it creates giant conflagrations, and it's disruptive. You can hear me say like, I can't get anything done. It's very disruptive, right? So you need a protective force field. That is what the umbrella of the magnetosphere is. I devoted a lot of verbal energy to describing the magnetosphere to you because that's the critical event that I am representing here through visual allegory. So this is not literal. You don't have to literally be afraid of a giant circular saw that is going to cut your planet in half, like an eggshell or something like that, and then the new chick will emerge. This is visual allegory. It is called Birth of the Flying Rainbow Lasagne, because you can see that I've shown the earth is splitting apart and something new is emerging. And what is emerging is in direct connotation to the sun, the solar disk that's behind you back here. And what you see is the shape of the flying rainbow lasagna. That's this, what I'm holding up here, as it relates to the human energy field. This is the transformation of Earth, the planet, planetary structure, the entire Earth energy field into a flying rainbow lasagna, which, by the way, is oscillating. So this is a static image, but I'm making my cursor jump up and down as if it's jumping up and down between these two different positions. It's also a transformation in the structure of your physicality body, where your body is transforming from having this donut-shaped toroid energy field around it into a flying rainbow lasagna energy field. So you are fractal and microcosmic to the planet and to the galaxy as well. As the planet transforms from, I'll put down my other things so I can hold this up effectively. Planet transforms from Taurus to higher dimensional state, which is lasagna. You are also transforming from having a toroidal energy field like this around you into being a flying rainbow lasagna like this. And this means that both you and the planet can directly affect DNA and write a new, more expansive story. The planet has been really diminished by these genetic modifications of the human form. Each one of us and humanity as a species represent a critical organ of consciousness on the planet, and we are not able to effectively do our job as an organ, creating and thinking about creative projects and manifesting those creative projects into reality due to the genetic obstacles and limitations. And the Flying Rainbow Lasagna is a return of your birthright and your purpose and your mission, which is to co-create reality with the planet. Like you're an organism that lives on the planet, but you are not separate and distinct from the planet. You're totally intertwined. Your fates are intertwined. Your consciousness is intertwined. And same thing with the planet and the sun. So you, planet, and the sun are all intertwined. You represent vastly different levels of perception and different levels of mass and, formfulness, but you are all on parallel journeys of self-discovery and transformation. And your ideas, what runs this, what makes the energy go, all derive from the sun. That all of this is consciousness energy that comes from the sun and flows through your toroidal energy field, but which will one day be a flying rainbow lasagna energy field as a series of possibilities and probabilities. So key point emphasis, toroid possibilities and probabilities, and it comes from the sun. If you're ever like, who wrote this stuff? Like, who wrote these stories? Like, it's the sun. But remember, I told you there's no distinction between lower self and higher self, and it's actually you writing all these stories. Spoiler alert, you're the sun, okay? That's actually you. Giant ball of consciousness up there, watching yourself, going through all these experiences in your life, okay? So this painting is a poetic allegory. I'm grabbing my little thing so I can gesture effectively here, as I want to also show you something funny. I didn't intend for it to be that way because this is just art history right now. I did these type of combinations of liquid paints to approximate what the surface of the sun looks like and its, fieriness and its dynamic texture. So I dripped these pieces of paint onto there and it kind of like bloomed in its liquid form. But I don't know if you can see down here at the bottom of your screen. Let's make it bigger. I hope you can see that. That's Cheeky's face. Do you totally see that? Eye, nose. You see a little chihuahua face right there. I totally put that in there, but it was not intentional, but that's just art history. Now, when you look at it, you can't unsee that. You're like, I see Cheeky's face at the bottom of there every time I look at that painting. Okay, moving onward. Thank you very much. I told you, I warned you I would be lighthearted. More pictures. Awesome. So let me put down my sculpture so I can get into this with you. Okay. Official now. What does a chakra mean? Because people talk about chakras and they use this word in all sorts of different ways. So your chakras mean spinning wheel of energy. In fact, I'm even going to move these notes onto, hopefully you can read them. I know it might be tiny on you if you're looking on a phone, but the word chakra is a Sanskrit word. It simply means a spinning wheel of energy. And this painting is a beautiful painting. For those of you who know me, and I've done this presentation before, you know that this is a painting that I made on glass with glass paint when I first started my journey as an artist here. And it died a horrible death, as glass items sometimes do. It was broken into a million pieces. But at least I have this painting, this picture of it, so we can still use it, because all of my paintings are more than decorative. They're meant to convey information. So I made this painting, and it was almost life size, like almost about 6 feet tall, to be able to display what the chakras look like when they are in their non-nested format. So I'm just going to show you a bunch of different imagery, and then we'll return back to it. But these are the chakras deconstructed, meaning it's like the recipe, but you see each constituent element of the recipe as a individuated or separated discrete presence. But usually all of these things are in one form on top of each other. So let's just break away from my notes for a minute and just show you. Here's a nice complex painting. This is difficult, I think, for the eye to be able to comprehend and look at. It's like there's so many colors and so many things going on. Like, what am I even looking at? That's why I started out in my journey of being an artist with the simplified structures over here, because I'm like, well, you guys are going to need to know what's just the simplest structures. In fact, let me show you the simplest painting that I did when I first started out. This is the simplest drawing of what the chakras look like and what are the proportions of these light forms. Sorry, I'm drinking. I know my straw makes a funny noise too. We'll save that for later. So it's off to the side. So here we have this complexity where it's a little bit difficult to even see what's going on. But you do see the basic four-lobed shape in here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you do see the anthropomorphic form. Let me go through a few of these. All right, here's a more simplified version where you see a human anthropomorphic form, and then you can see how some of the chakras are oriented as if they are a vortex pointing upward to the ceiling and one downward to the floor. But some of your chakras are oriented as if one of them, the vortexes, are pointing outward towards, let's say, the room that you're in, one of the walls, or one of the walls behind you, where I say that these are arranged sometimes like buttons on your shirt, like they're up and down the front of your chest, like buttons on your shirt. We're going to use that picture a lot in talking about these concepts. Here's another one. You're like, I know these paintings. I know you do, because I use them all the time. This one is also very accurate, but inaccurate on some other levels. So all of these have like pluses and minuses. I'm able to show a certain amount of information with visual accuracy in each painting, but that means that I have to compromise some other information because I'm not painting with direct light, like I'm painting with paint. And if I put a lot of lines and colors on top of each other, it just ends up being visually confusing. So I'm always making conscious choices about what I am emphasizing and what I'm editing out. I'm making curatorial, editorial choices, but always to be able to present the truth of this empirical information or non-interpreted information as it is coming from the cosmos. So this painting over here is slightly true, but also has a few untruths in it. What I like about it is this area around the head, because that place where the blue indigo chakra and the violet chakra of your crown come together, that's critical anatomical infrastructure. And you can see that on this is actually a scratch board. I incised away the black and then left the white lines, and then I colored them with watercolor paint. So that's a scratch board and it has the same information there. This is a painting and has that same information there. Now let's move that away and I'll show you this. This is one of my earliest paintings. And this is very accurate in terms of the actual scale of the red chakra and how big it is comparison to your anthropomorphic human form. But in this simplification, I'm showing everything with the epicenter of all toroidal chakras at the heart of this human figure. And what's really accurate is that these chakras have places where they come into the body form all up and down the spine. But for the ease of the diagram of this particular sharing, I had them all focused into one place. So that initial painting that I showed you where everything was deconstructed, let's see if we can find it. This one shows everything like a slinky as if it's stretched out. And then this one over here shows what the chakras look like when all of the chakras are smooshed together. Now let's go into the actual curriculum here and let's talk about what all of these colors represent. I am not merely randomly or capriciously or whimsically obsessed with rainbows. I have a meaning. There's a reason why I'm obsessed with rainbows, okay? Because each one of these colors represents the recipe of white light as that totality existence of white light consciousness comes from our sun. The sun is synonymous with the source or the singularity, which is also the destination of our consciousness. The sun emits your chakras, timelines, and probabilities and possibilities as, time potentials in abstraction. And the shape of what you're experiencing, the layers of what you can tell I faltered because as I said that whole thing, they're like, wait, I have to change what I'm saying here. So let me start again. Each one of these colors represents an aspect of the emanations of the sun, and each one of these colors represents a layer of reality that is moving at a different rate. So red is the layer of reality that we know as physical existence. That includes your physical, somatic, or cellular body presence, the matter of the chair that you're sitting in, or the treadmill that I'm walking upon, or the note pen that you're holding in your hand, the physicality of the room that you are within, and the physicality of all of the other people and organisms in the room that you are within. That realm of red is pretty much what is explored when I talk about the five senses reality. It is also what is explored and described by the mind state and philosophy that we know as objective materialism. Red is material stuff. It's matter. It's stuff. And objective materialism is like saying, I just look at stuff and I just assess and make up my meaningfulness and my draw my conclusions about what life and what's going on in the world based upon stuff. All right. And also everyone can agree on stuff. You're like, yep, this is a chair. Yep, this is a face. This is my face. This is my pen. This is my, my Sharpie marker. We can all agree on that. That's like pretty simplistic and pretty easy. But all of the rest of this that I'm wiggling my cursor around is something that is not physical. It is energy, but it is not optical energy. This is your light body. What I have painted here in all these different paintings and drawings represents your light body. Light is information. So I'm talking about your information body, your time body, your body of pure potential. And objective materialism does not overtly recognize that energy body. It doesn't have a way to measure that energy. It doesn't have a way to effectively, consciously manipulate that energy. So like you can put here's my Sharpie marker. Here it is. We can all see it. We can all agree that it exists. And I can put it on a scale and I can weigh it, or I can measure it with a ruler and you can say how long it is and how heavy it is. But what you can't do is do something like put your anger on a scale and measure how much it weighs. Well, I don't know how much it weighs. How about your joy? Put your joy on a scale. Tell me how many centimeters long of joy you have. And don't be naughty with your jokes about that. It's ephemeral. Although everybody, even an objective materialist physical scientist, has experienced anger or joy or grief or sorrow or whatever, these human mammalian emotions. Because they are not easily measured and quantified, science and objective materialism cannot effectively acknowledge them or use them or manipulate them. So let's go through the layers of what we're talking about. Red is physicality. and it is also known as the root chakra. It is affiliated here. I'll bring this one forward so you can see it a little bit better. It is affiliated with the base of the spine. The base of the spine is the base of your spine. It is not your anus. Okay, these are two very different areas of your body. Please note the difference. All the chakras connect to areas of your spine. And the next chakra is orange, which represents mammalian emotions. So when I talk about that, I'm really talking about what your emotional realm is as a mammal. Mammals live in community. Mammals experience both attraction and revulsion. Like some people you love and you want to kiss them and hug them and have sex with them and make babies with them. Or maybe you want to whatever, be friends and build community. Or maybe there's some people that you're like, no, I hate you, I'm repelled by you, I think you're gross, ugly, and disgusting, and you want them to get away from you. Those emotions, which literally put you into motion, they are very powerful motivational aspects of personal energy, and they are exemplified by the chakra that is orange. This is epicentered below your navel. So the red chakra is epicentered, at the base of your spine, but you could think of it as like coming up between your legs or at the bottom of your pelvis. And then the next epicenter is below your navel. And then up from that is yellow. And yellow is represented as the daily waking cognitive intellect. It is represented by the cerebrum of your brain, and we'll go into neurochemistry here too. And it represents what humans call your ego, the story of self, and certain levels of intellectual, analytical thought processes. So this is where you find verbalized language, math, like I said, again, analytical, logical thought, logical memory, a lot of the things that humans define as higher administrative aspects of your brain, and that humans do not recognize these thought patterns in other animals. Other animals are geniuses and they're beautiful, but they have a very, very different intellectual realm than you do. And also, yellow is the level at which humanity has experienced a ton of disruption in terms of implantations on a genetic level and on a cognitive or psychological level, on a cultural level. So, like religious teachings and stuff that's been put inside of you that's not truthful about the shape of reality and why things happen, those are all implants or stories at the level of the intellect. But I want you to know that other animals do have yellow chakras. Other animals have pristine yellow chakras, where they are experiencing a cognitive intellect that is very, very different than the flawed human current cognitive intellect. So dogs are very smart. Cats are very smart. Dolphins are super duper smart. Whales are super duper smart. These are all mammalian animals that have a yellow chakra and are super duper smart, but they don't use language in the way that humans use language. And so it can be very self-centered and limiting for humans who often do not comprehend how to communicate with these other beautiful animals that are in the world. But of course, when you become an animal lover and you become more attuned to your animal, then you learn how they communicate. And also they have various different senses because they communicate a lot through scent and pheromones. And things like dolphins also work with pure frequency, things that you are not sensitized to in your five senses realm. So have to redefine and recalibrate what you even consider intelligence in light of that, and also in light of the diminishments that have been placed on your cognitive ability by genetic distortions from the overseers or suppressors of consciousness in humanity. And for a very long time, I told you, humanity was defined by those three layers: your physical body, which is red, with some mammalian emotion that's orange, and that motivates you and makes you keep on reproducing, and then a thin layer of daily waking intellect on top of that. And that was the definition of what it was to be a human. But I am here to tell you that you are this whole entire apparatus. And I didn't invent the shape of this apparatus. But I mean, like, unless I define myself as God, which is what I want all of us to do. But just like as Aurora, this stuff all predates me. Um, Green is the level of unconditional love. So now I'll change my set. Can I change? I can't change my sound settings. Hold on. I just do a stop share. Stop share, sound settings. Let's play an A note. I have also, now you hear my treadmill beeping. Don't listen to the beeping. That is not the sound of unconditional love. But my A note, that is the sound of unconditional love. Now I will turn off that so you don't hear the treadmill again. Unconditional love. This is different than the mammalian emotions, which I sometimes jokingly refer to as WOV. WOV, twoo WOV. It's from a silly movie, but I enjoy that silly movie. Romantic attraction is not the same as love. So first of all, these are different aspects of the body. The aspects of your body that are here below your navel, that relates to your reproductive organs and also your food. And that you will feel the emotions that come and that from the eating of food and also are related to your direct biological reproduction. But here is where you will find unconditional love. And this is the love beyond the definition of what it is to be a mammal. This is the love that you feel when you experience frictionless bliss as you move through time. This is your time body, when the energy is flowing through your time body in a perfect way so that you are embedded within events with no cognitive thought, no limitation, nothing that slows you down or messes you up. That is love. So what is it to be in love with the world? What is it to be in love with time or with divinity or with the planet or with the larger architecture of the cosmic reality? It means that every single thing that you do, every single thought process, every single thing that you say, every food that you eat, and every step that you take is perfectly aligned with the larger time structure. It's like you're a musician, you are playing the drums, and you are playing exactly the right notes to fit in with the rest of the band. And if you've ever been a collaborative musician and you're in the band, when you are playing your part correctly, and everyone else is playing their part correctly too, it feels great. You feel lifted up. You feel like you can play forever. You feel like it's called the groove. You feel the groove, all right? You're in the groove. And literally, DNA has something that is called a groove. It means that you are optimizing your energy with no friction. And that is the ideal of what we all wish to experience in terms of our flow through time. And so, of course, I'm a musician. I talk about being in the groove, but computer programmers can be in the groove too. They call this a flow state. So sometimes because I'm friends with some software programmers and they're like, just let me be in my programming world, working on a software project, nobody bother me. That's it. They're in their groove when they are doing these deep calculations and these deep processes and this deep pattern recognition work. Then they are in their groove. So I just want to bring that forward because sometimes athletes and dancers are in the groove. Musicians are in the groove. Software engineers can be in the groove. Like anybody can be in their groove when they are doing their optimal thing. My dog loves to hunt for gophers. She will sit outside in her groove for hours a day. And what she does is she watches where the gophers come up in all their little gopher holes. Again, it's a type of intelligence that might be under recognized by humanity, but she's a master gopher hunter. And animals do have their own mastery of the things that they are good at. All right. When you are in love with the world, it means you are receiving one moment per moment. You are not tied down to the past, that's literally the definition of depression. Depression is not just because something bad happened to you, it's because you're carrying around stuff from the past. Or you could think about it like having very, very, very long hair that trails out behind you. That's all of the undigested emotional experiences that tie you to the past that make you're here in this moment now, but you're thinking about and feeling about all that stuff that happened days, weeks, months, or years or decades ago. And the other complement to that is anxiety, which is destabilization, wondering about the future. This is me like leaning forward instead of like being pulled back by my giant long dreadlocks out into the past. I'm being pulled forward where I'm like, I wonder what's going to happen. And anticipation can be great when you're like, oh, like it's my birthday tomorrow. I wonder what I'm going to get as my wonderful gifts. Or like, oh, I'm going to the ice cream store. I can't wait to see what new ice cream flavors I'm going to get. Like that can be fun and good. But so anticipation can be good. But anxiety is like this. Oh, like what bad stuff is going to happen in a few minutes, or what bad stuff is going to happen in a few years, or what bad stuff is going to happen like as I drive down the road and get to this part of the highway. And all of that is, again, it takes you away from the focus of being in the moment now. So I'm lavishing a lot of attention on this concept of unconditional love because it's not just attractiveness to partners or wanting to hug or kiss a dog or a kitten who is cute. And all of those things are valid, but I am talking about being in love with time. Means that you are moving at exactly the right rate and you're not thinking about the past and you're not thinking about the future. You're 100% in the moment now. And that is a huge empowerment posture to be in, because when you're able to be completely focused in the moment now is when you are empowered to break free of the patterns of the past and to create new pathways that radiate outward from this moment now into the future. So being able to create unconditional love is a life skill and a spiritual attainment. And we should all attain that skill, but it's not the end of the journey. So that skill is attained through mindfulness and it is attained through meditation. Both of these are ways of being able to close down the talking of the intellect. Your daily waking intellect, that yellow mind, the hacked human operating system, is designed to keep you away from unconditional love. It's designed to distract you, to crap on the moment. I don't have better words for it. But to pretty much take you out of yourself because you're always thinking and intellecting and talking about things, and then you're not even in your moment. So like, have you ever like been at the store on autopilot and you get out the end and you're like, oh, like, look at me, I have groceries. Like I bought all of these things. I don't even remember because why? Because why? Because you were busy thinking about something other than experiencing. Like maybe I was thinking about like, oh, like I have to do this thing on chorefulness, laundry list. Everybody's got chorefulness and laundry list. Or maybe you were thinking about a bad conversation. I can't believe so-and-so said this and that to me. And I should have said this. And then I should have said this and done this. And then at the end, like you bought all the groceries and somehow it all got inside of your cart and you were busy like thinking about something completely different than the moment now. Um, and you might not be like, oh, like the pinnacle of my existence, grocery shopping. I could really focus on this and really experience it. But the truth is, it is the pinnacle of your existence. The truth is, it does crap all over the moment when we are busy, stuck in previous experiences or wondering about what our experience will be like, usually with a fearful connotation. And it's very disempowering. So to move into celebration, look at how my spine goes up, celebration and gratitude for the moment. You disengage from all the bad stuff that has happened to you that brought you to this moment. And also, don't be busy wondering and anticipating what the next moment will be. That's being in the groove. And when you're in that groove, you're moving from moment to moment. There's a joyful, blissful connotation to it. So that was presented for many, many millennia as the pinnacle of what human attainment is. Physical body, mammalian emotions, daily human intellect, and then being able to get to the level of unconditional love. In previous times and places, people would sit in a cave for decades and meditate to try to get to unconditional love, or sequester themselves in a monastery, or do any kind of extreme pilgrimages, walking hundreds of miles or perambulating around a mountain or any of these things. They would do a lot of hard work, and that would be considered the job of only a special holy person. And I am here to tell you that that's not the pinnacle of the mountain. That is just the base camp. And also, it's not just for special mountain climbers, it is for all of us. And this is also a redefinition of what it is to be human in this time and place. Maybe in another time and place, it was appropriate for there to be a lower echelon of people who were just busy in survival mode, making sure that they grew enough food and, ate barley to stay alive. And everybody had their, physical items to be able to be alive. And it was considered like a very special position to be able to be like, you're just going to sit around all day and not make food and just like love things. Like not going to work in a lot. If everybody sat around and did that, would not have a lot of survival if you didn't make food. All right. So that part of that is where that's coming from. But also part of it was a sense of a bifurcation between the physical aspect of self and your ephemeral, non-physical aspect of self. And so here in this generation, we must all self proclaim or encompass the definition of self of being a master, mastering unconditional love and doing it not even, wait, I have to put this down so I can snap, not even on a mountaintop, in a monastery, or in some place away from daily life, but in the supermarket, in your life, driving around your car, going around your neighborhood, and doing all the things that are important to sustain your reality. So we in this generation are expected to do a lot. And yes, we are also inundated with technology too, which is its own challenge to be able to reach these spiritual levels of pure love, even while we are distracted by and afflicted by different technological systems and implants. But please know that that's your job. And when you meditate and get unconditional love, it is not just an end in and of itself, just like earning money. Let me just hydrate. Earning money is not an end in and of itself. It is an empowerment that makes it possible for you to do more. So when you earn money, you then have money in your bank account that you can spend on stuff or things or experiences. And when you have unconditional love in your energetic bank account, your inner metabolism is your bank account. You're moving at a certain rate, and you can quote unquote spend that money or spend that energy on things or projects that are important to you, like manifesting reality, like healing your body, like protecting the planet. Good stuff that you can do. But of course, there's all sorts of different price ranges. Like an orange costs like 69 cents at the store, but a mansion costs $3.5 million. Like there are different price ranges for different things. So certain levels of experience or interactions might be more affordable in terms of how much meditative energy you have, in contrast with other aspects which might be more expensive. We need to make a brief pause for Miss Cheeky. Pause for the pause. And everybody's going to hug Cheeky. It's a brand new semester, some new people. You need to. This is Cheeky. Cheeky is totally an ascended master who is embodying love, and she sometimes needs bribes in the middle of class. She got a good walk today, but she's coming out in order to, she loves all of you, first of all. And she both loves you and she loves you. She's very much in the moment. But we might need to bribe Cheeky. I'll just pause the class for a moment so that we can give her some FOOD. She's so smart that she can spell. She even knows what I'm talking about here. Okay, thank you for being with us, Master Cheeky. Let's give you bribes. Hold on one sec, guys. Let me just press pause on this. And you can all, if you need snacks or body breaks, bio body break, fast. Thank you for the brief break, talking to Master Cheeky and giving her beautiful love. And we can use that as an example because I gave her food. Food is intimately connected with the concept of unconditional love. Food and the action of eating is one of the most powerful ways that you get quote unquote money in the bank to be able to then activate the next levels of your anatomy that I will talk about. So let's show them here on this graph. Light blue, throat chakra. And I have usually talked about this as if it is in simplistic terms, communication. And it is. It is where we have our larynx, but it's also where we have the extension of our arms coming out from this. Anything that you're doing with your hands, that is part of communication. Playing the piano is your throat chakra. Writing a letter, throat chakra. Typing on a computer, throat chakra. Gesturing, this is me as the Italian grandma. That's throat chakra stuff. But also, your throat chakra is a representative of the energy of authenticity. And when I say that, I'm talking about honesty. Authenticity is the truthful expression of your thought and emotional state. So you have energy and also your physical state. You have energy that is essentially coming upward from your root chakra, through your emotional centers, through your intellectual centers, and then through your heart center. Your heart center is about acceptance. You're like, oh, here's all these informations and various different forms of stimuli that are coming to me from my physical body. It comes through your heart, you accept it, and then it comes here to where it is expressed. So let's say you're like hungry, thirsty, angry, whatever. Your body is talking to you, your intellect becomes aware of it, your heart accepts it, and then you advocate for yourself. You're like, oh, hey, I'm hungry, thirsty, or I need to use the toilet. I'm going to go do my thing that I need to do, right? Or it can be about setting boundaries in your life. It can be about saying to people in your life, this is who I am, and this is how I'd like you to address me or treat me. Or if you do not treat me in the right way, then I will say to you, I don't appreciate that. Get away from me. This is a very, very important, powerful part of your anatomy in terms of setting emotional, energetic, and social boundaries. The ability to be honest and to be authentic. It is really closed down in a lot of people. Not only is the heart very closed down in a lot of people here and now, but non-authenticity, self-censorship, and outright lying is a part of your life. I call it an angelic realm where I come from. I come from a higher dimensional realm that is outside of time and space, but you could think of it in accordance with like the allegory of the word angelic. I come from a very angelic place where like we don't lie. We consider it like the silliest, most ridiculous thing to try to lie. It would be like if I said to you, like, I am wearing a piece of lettuce instead of a dress. You'd be like, Aurora, like clearly you are wearing a dress. You're not wearing a vegetable right now. You would think that that is a ridiculous thing to say. So in the higher dimensions, your perception is so accurate that you can just tell when someone is saying something that's not truthful and not authentic. And it's not even worth the energy to try to assert something that's not true. It's just like, don't even waste your energy. Like, that's ridiculous. No one's going to believe you. Drinking. Thank you. I should have hydrated. Energy of authenticity. And in my sharing in this class, it's all about, it's a level 2 stuff, all about human sexuality. I talk about how like I was amazed and surprised in comprehending human earth culture and behavior at how unauthentic people are in their relationships, even lying about the sensations that they feel with partners, being inauthentic about whether they enjoy being kissed, hugged, touched, or whether they are having genuine fulfillment in their sexual intimacies. I was amazed by that. I'm like, wow, they lie about everything around here. And you're all like, oh, of course, like it's normal for us. I'm like, that's not normal. That's not how it's supposed to be. Your heart is like a plateau, call it base camp, but it really is a strongly rotating vortex that is the basis for which all of these other higher faculties and abilities stand or rest. So your heart and having unconditional love and acceptance is absolutely critical for you to be able to build the next layer of your being, which is authentic self-expression. But this is not the end. Meditation on a mountaintop is not the end. Self-expression about your journey is definitely not the end. Let's get up one more layer. This is dark blue. So I'm going to go back to some of my imagery so that you can see what I'm talking about here. Let's choose this picture. Okay, so let me move it even bigger so you can see it. I'm going to zoom on in. And you can see at the center of this human figure in profile, at the top of the spine, so the spine is not in this anatomy, but you can imagine it coming all the way up this person's spine. Where the spine meets the skull, there's this very, very special, important part of your anatomy. And that is where you have your dark blue eye of insight, which is related to your pineal gland, but not synonymous with, and we'll go more into that in the class. And it combines with your violet chakra, which is your energy field that is your divine connection, your connection to the source or to the highest level of organizational principle and intelligence that is in existence. So first, let's talk about your insight. Dark blue is the color. It is associated with your pineal gland, but not synonymous with your pineal gland. It is associated with or affiliated with Christ consciousness, Krishna consciousness, crystalline consciousness. All of those phonemes sound similar and describe the same level of consciousness. It is a multidimensional viewpoint, not an earthly Christian religion. It does not have anything to do with Christian dogma or the very, very flawed Christian church in this world. It has to do with direct perception of time and non-verbalized deep knowing. Each one of you has this aspect of your anatomy. It's not just for special people. Although I recognize, again, in the world that I came into here, I was like, wow, like not everybody has this. And where I come from, everybody has this. But here, this is a rare and special gift, but you're all supposed to have this. So here, a lot of people are dormant in the activation of their insight and their higher faculties. And that dormancy can be through genetic modifications, environmental pollutions, dietary and other pharmaceutical pollutions, and other inhibitor frequencies, like some of this bad stuff that's in people's bodies right now. But this is meant to be your inner guidance system that guides you without language and without words. Down here at the level of yellow, that's the level of language and words. This is the level of deep knowing. So if you've ever just known something without being able to put it into words, it is at that level. Sometimes you know something in a dream and it's not articulated and you just know it, or in a vision, or in a reverie. And even the action of trying to put something into words diminishes the profundity of the insight. That's why I make my stuff visual artwork. All of this information that I'm sharing with you came to me non-verbally through direct knowing, through this area of my anatomy. First, I had to get money in the bank. I'm pointing to my chest, and here I am wiggling my cursor at the level of the chest of this woman over here. I had to do a lot of meditative work and earn my money in order to have enough currency in the bank to be able to activate these higher faculties. You need to meditate and learn how to quiet your intellect and learn how to stabilize your mind and fly through time in a blissful state so that you can even get enough energy to have a deep insight from highest consciousness and express it authentically. And that's what I do as my job. That's what it is to be a visionary artist. I see and perceive this cosmic truth, and then I try to translate it into accessible communication forms without diluting the profundity of the original message. So I literally see these images, but then I have to figure out some way to translate it into the art materials of this time and place so that you can see, even as I've blown this up, it's like I scratched into to be able to make these very, very fine lines. I had to learn, like, how can I make these fine lines? Like, you can't use like a big giant Sharpie marker to draw this painting. You're going to have to find a way to make these very special lines. And I had to learn about like how to use circle templates to make perfect circles and how to do all these different things. Like, I had to figure out how to represent this truth. And even still, I use some tricks of the trade or approximations to be able to share this information. So I'm only partially accurate, but I'm always trying to be as accurate as I possibly can be, because what I'm doing is perceiving a higher dimensional realm and then translating it into either music or art and visual diagrams that people can perceive in this world. And all of this is meant to be give you motivation and give you guidance along the way to activating your own higher faculties so that this eye of insight will be activated and functional in your own anatomy, and you will have enough money in the bank to be able to activate your telescope and look at and learn about whatever you want to learn about. So let me see if I can draw, if it'll give me, yeah, let me get this thing, because this, if I get a good color that you can actually see, This is where your tendril of attention emerges from. I'm showing a curly cubit. This is an energy vortex that comes out of the middle of your forehead. And it goes to, that's supposed to be an arrow pointing that way. It goes to whatever you're thinking about. So if I ask you to think about my dog Cheeky, you're literally sending out a tendril of attention and connecting to my dog. Or what if I want you to think about a puffy white cloud? You're going to send out your tendril of attention to a cloud that's in the sky and think about that. What if I want you to think about an abstract concept? What if I want you to think about like the abstract concept of time? You send out your tendril of attention and you touch on that abstraction. And in the touching on of the thing, you receive energy about that thing. So like I just did my class that's called Path of Light. And for anybody who missed it, it's never too late. You can always contact me and I'm happy to give you the archive and also the whiteboard so that way you can access that and learn all about it. But I learned that curriculum by literally sending out my tendril of attention and touching on photons, touching on the abstraction of light and learning about it. And when you touch on and learn about something, you get a deep knowing that is beyond language. So if you touched on a cloud, you would learn about the cloudiness of cloudness without words. And you'd be like, oh, that's what that is. Then your job would be, how am I going to describe this to anybody else? The words are inadequate. You will have to innovate to be able to convey your experience of things that don't conform to the five senses. Okay. Now, we are almost all the way through the human octave, but we haven't gone all the way yet. I'll erase that curly Q so you don't get confused, because now we're over here at the level of violet. And you can see violet is a chakra that is oriented, quote unquote, up and down, as opposed to your other chakras. So your root chakra is also, I'm going to draw that, but it's way down at your, below your waistline. Root chakra is also up and down like this. That's the red that I'm drawing over there. But all the rest of these guys are oriented side to side, as you can see, like side to side, right? And they are complementary. And they're dynamic. They have a whirling motion where they whirl around like this, but they also have a whirling motion where they swing around like this. And the violet chakra, so wait, I should say the eye of insight is whirling around like this. And it's making these wonderful, amazing vortexes. And the vortexes are made out of time. And then it's also whirling around a person's head like this, right? So you have complementary motions. But then with your violet shape there, you've got it whirling around like this, kind of the way a halo or a crown fits around a head. It is called your crown chakra. And also this one down here whirls around at your shoulder level and it rests within your authenticity. And that also whirls around, you get a different color, you're going to get very confused. Like, I'm already confused, help me. Whirls around like this and this. I know, terrible drawing there. They're at complementary angles is what I'm trying to say. So you have 90-degree angles. I'm making you do math right now, guys. She just made me do math. She made me do math. That's a 90-degree angle. Don't jump out the window. We're going to do this a lot in class. These are complementary chakras that are completely intertwined. And that angle that they are at relative to one another is absolutely essential for the health and vitality of your body. This violet chakra is literally where you get impressions to come in. I can't really get my arrow up there, but come in through the top of your head from the highest intelligence. So wait, let's turn this off. Wait. Turn this off. Now we're going to go smaller. I can't make it go smaller. I can't do anything. I can't do anything. I can make it happen. I believe in me. Okay. This whole entire apparatus that is you is the recipe of light that comes from our nearest star, which is the sun. Just like if you were building a cake, you are going to have a lot of flour. That's the red zone over here. You're going to have slightly less sugar, but still a lot of sugar. That's orange. Then you're going to have some butter. That's at the level of yellow. Then you will have some chocolate. That's at the level of your heart. Then you will have like a little bit of salt and a little bit of baking soda. Then you will have a tiny dash of vanilla extract. The dash of vanilla extract is your violet. The proportions matter. This is what I'm trying to say in the recipe of you and in the recipe of light that emerges from the sun. Your proportions matter. And I'm going to teach you what the proportions are so you learn the recipe. The recipe is different from star system to star system. So our sun star has its own particular calibration, and our light bodies are calibrated to and responsive to the particular recipe, I keep using that word, and formation of light from our sun star. It's really, really important. You are calibrated for this world. Your body, even your light body and your time presence, is calibrated according to the emanations of potential realities that come from this particular star. Now we have to talk also about additive light mixing versus subtractive light mixing. We are now also in art school, so we're doing a lot of things today. So I'm an artist, and when I want to make colors on my palette, I mix together paints. That is called subtractive light mixing, because what happens is the pigments of the various different paints subtract or block out certain frequencies, as opposed to painting with pure light. Painting with pure light would be any kind of projection. If you ever did stage design with colorful lights and lighting, and also some forms of printing where you have translucent inks that layer on top of each other but don't block each other out. Different rules for additive color mixing, okay? So this is why in subtractive color mixing, if I took all of the colors of all of the paints in my art studio right over there, and I mix them together in one big giant bucket, you would get a gross color that is not even pure black. It would be like brownish, swampy, gross muck, all right? But when you take all of the colors of something that is pure light and you mix it together in additive color mixing, all of the colors add up to white light. White light is the primary ray of colors, and it is the primary ray of consciousness that emerges from the sun. The act of your body is the act of refraction, which is the splitting apart of the centralized ray of light, which is white, into its various different elements by making them move at different rates. So all of these colors are you moving at different rates. Your violet chakra is you. It is the part of you that is moving at the fastest rate while still defining self as individual, not self as continuum of light. Another way of saying it is the fastest part of your light body anatomy while you are within the human octave. I will now sing. Here's an octave. An octave has 8 notes in it, right? In Western music, we arbitrarily begin with a C. C. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then back to C. It doesn't make sense. Don't worry about it. Just using that as a little teachable moment. But let's sing it for the colors of the rainbow, okay? Beginning with C as red. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, and then back to white, white light. When you add up all of the colors of the rainbow that fit within you as the definition of what it is to be a human, you return to the primary ray of white light. So the definition of our experience in individuality, individuated form, and as an individuated light body is directly related to the different unique layers of our being that are created through the lens of our existence. Yes, the part of you that is moving at the slowest rate comparative to white light and in your light body is red. your physical existence. Fastest is violet. That's all the way up here. Violet, white light. And then your lowest, slowest one is red. It's at the base of your spine, down in your pelvis. And then everything in between is incrementally slightly faster, 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 faster. So you could envision, if I get to one of my paintings here, Let's use, well, this one's pretty good. All right, so let me grab the annotation. You guys know this little sketch. If I draw something that looks like this too, like here's a square of canvas, and here's the horizon, and here's the sun. I know it's white. I'm not going to get all the colors. Here's the sun, right? Setting over the horizon, right? And then this is meant to be a road. It's not a pyramid. It's a road. So here's like the little dots that go down the center of the road. All right. It's not perfect, but you get it. Parallel lines meet at infinity. This sun is the infinity point over here, and the road stretches away from you in 1 point perspective into infinity. Now I'm going to erase all of that so you don't get confused, but keep all of that in mind, because that's exactly what you have with your body. You can see that this is a vaguely, that was a terrible line. Do it right. Better. Vaguely road shaped. Nope, that didn't work at all. That's not that bad. Pretty good. Dot, dot, dot going up the middle. Dot, dot, dot going up the middle. All right. That's what this is meant to represent, but I'm going to take that away for you to get confused. But what you have here are different layers of your being that are reaching backward into infinity. The ones that are closest to you over here is your physical presence. It's moving the slowest, and it's in physicality. It's light that's moving so slow, it's physical stuff. Then the other stuff is light that's moving not as slow. That's now emotional energy. And then you have stuff that's moving not quite as slow, that is intellectual energy. And then you have stuff that is moving not quite that slow, that is the energy of unconditional love. And then you have the energy of authenticity and insight and divine connection. And those are all moving at a relatively fast rate. In fact, the violet chakra is moving at such a fast rate that it is barely even slower than infinity speed. This is your it's your divine connection. Your violet chakra is your divine connection, and it is the fastest part of your light body anatomy. Brief pause. I want to get to all of your wonderful questions while they're still relevant, but I just want to do one more thing to get through for the curriculum for today. And that is to go back to this beautiful painting. Because, oh no, this needs to come, first of all, I can't even see. This is all the way off the edge of the screen. Now I need to do this. Good. Hooray. Try to get the annotation within a certain amount of time. It makes my life very hard. Let's begin with the proportions, because I was just telling you about how fast different aspects of your being are moving. So first we have to talk about frequency and wavelength. Everything that's your light body is moving at the speed of light, but the size of the waves are vastly different. This painting is great because you can see the exact proportions, although this big giant circle is so big that it goes off the edge. So you're only seeing half of that circle. But in all of my paintings are calibrated according to these very intentional mathematical proportions that are not arbitrary and they are not whimsical. And I didn't just make them up out of nowhere. They really are from divine consciousness. So please imagine that this is like the starting point over here, and my line for red is going to go all the way off the edge of your screen. But in my paintings, red is represented by a 12-inch circle, all right? That part could be any number. Why did I choose 12? Because you guys measure inches here in 12 inches to a foot. And it just makes it very, very easy to be able to do these proportions. So In my paintings, red always equals 12. And in my paintings, orange, and everywhere, actually, not just in my paintings, but throughout all of truthfulness, orange is always going to be 1/2 of red. Class, what is half of 12? Guys are super duper smart, and you know this. This is always going to be 6. All right. It's always going to be half the size of 12. And that means that there are 2 orange chakras that can fit inside of 1 red chakra. Now let's talk about yellow. Yellow is always going to be 1/3 the size of red. So what is 12 divided by 3? You guys are smart. Shout it out. 4. The answer is 4. Good job. Now we're going to get a little bit more complex. You can tell I keep on having to like press buttons to do this effectively. It's a lot. Okay, so green. Green is always going to be 1/4 the size of the red chakra. 4 green circles will fit inside of 1 12-inch red circle. What is 12 divided by 4? You guys are like, this is super duper easy. The answer is 3. Let's write it down here so we don't get confused. 3. That circle throughout all of my paintings in my whole entire art studio, every single place you see a 3-inch circle, it's always going to be green. Now we are going to talk about the light blue circle. That's right here. That's going to be 1/5 the size of the 12-inch circle. So what's 12 divided by 5? You guys are all like, this is hard. This is not going to be a whole number. I know. Don't panic. I will give you the answer. The answer is 2.4, right? And that's kind of a rough approximation, but that is for blue over here. Any place in my whole entire art studio where you see a turquoise circle, it's always going to be 2.4 inches because that's proportional relevance to the red circle, which is always going to be 12. This next one is easier. Like, that was hard. It involved fractions. I was scared a decimal point happened. Yes. Now let's talk about indigo. That's this section over here. So that's 6. It's the 6th chakra, and there are 6 of these circles or bubbles that can fit inside of 1 12-inch circle. So what is 12 divided by 6? That one's easy. You guys know that one. It's 2. All right, right there, 2. And then let's do the last one. That's going to be violet. I'm not going to really even draw a line, but it's this edge to this edge over here. The violet chakra is always going to be 1/7 the size of 12. So what's 12 divided by 7? You're like, again, Aurora, I'm very uncomfortable. I'm sweating. I can't. I'm flashing back to 3rd grade. Please don't make me do flashcards. Don't worry, guys. You're okay. We'll give you the answer. The answer is about 1.7. 1.7. It's actually 1.68. Fits really beautifully with the proportion that is known as phi, PHI from Phidias. But those are the proportions all throughout all of my paintings in my art studio. Every place where you see a violet circle, it's always going to be 1.7 inches. And every place where you see a dark blue circle, it's always going to be 2 inches. So if I go back to me, like, this is, of course, a smaller version. This painting is also on the wall back there, but you just can't see it effectively. But in making this painting, I was consistent with all of those proportions. Those proportions are divinely mandated proportions. That's pretty much like saying, like, look, kid, if you want to have a life, if you want to be in existence, you're going to have to follow these proportions. Kind of like, you know, don't give me any problems. Don't give me any attitude about it. Just deal with it. That's it. And in creating my paintings, I started off with the largest circle and the red color being 12, but you could start off with the largest circle and the red color being 10. And then you would have to say, what is half of 10? It's 5. What is 1/3 of 10? Now you're going to get into 0.333 repeating. I know it's not that much fun. What is 1/4 of 10? 1/4 of 10. What is 1/5 of 10? That one's easy because it's going to be 2. And then what is 1/6 of 10? And then what is 1/7 of 10? So in choosing 12 rather arbitrarily for most of my artwork, I only really have 2 numbers that are not whole numbers. But if you choose like a weird number for your red chakra, whatever, like 333 inches, then you will have all sorts of crazy numbers as you go through it. But if you're interested, we can do this as a homework exercise. One of the wonderful students of this class actually reached out to me and said, "You guys, we should have more homework." And I'm like, "Whoa, someone wants homework." So I'm going to get into homework assignments that involve you doing your energetic anatomy lessons, but I think that we'll save that for next week or a little bit further down the road, because here's what you will need to assemble to be able to learn these proportions yourself. You will need to have a nice large piece of paper and a flat, comfortable table where you can put it down and, write and draw upon it effectively. Pencils, erasers, colored pencils will also really help you, but you can use things like markers or even watercolor paints, something to be able to represent all the colors from red all the way up through violet, and something that you can use to draw perfect circles. So I use circle templates, like round pieces of plastic in the appropriate sizes, but you can also use a protractor, which is the thing that is shaped kind of like a triangle where you have a pointy part and then the part that swings around it. You can even use things that are unusual, like you can put a thumbtack in the middle of your circle and have a string that connects to your pencil to be able to draw a big giant circle all around it. Why are we going to do this exercise? Because what I am teaching you is effectively like your ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. And we're going to do a lot of repetitive stuff throughout the whole entire semester, because when you learned language in kindergarten or whatever, they didn't just say like, "Oh, so here's the alphabet A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, blah, 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 and all the way over to X, Y, Z. Okay, that's it, moving on." And then expect you to internalize that. You can't do that. Your teacher probably went over your ABCs and you sang it a million times and you watched it on Sesame Street and it made a deep neural pathway inside of your brain. You didn't even just learn about it, hear your teacher say it, see it on a blackboard, and say it with your own singing voice. You probably also wrote it in like lined pieces of paper, like worksheets. You probably traced the letter A a lot of times. You traced the letter B a lot of times, okay? So you learn from your tactile sense. And sometimes children even learn from like having a little letter board where they're literally tracing with their fingers and like trace a letter A, trace a letter B. You learn it through the tactile sense, all right? So when you take the time to draw these pictures that are about your energetic anatomy, you are learning through your tactile sense and you are connecting with the deep information that you contain in your body. And also you're using your other senses to create a deeper neural pathway, because hearing things creates one pathway, seeing things creates another pathway, speaking things creates another pathway, and then feeling things creates another pathway. Yes, you can dance the alphabet, because what if you had like a big giant crayon and you were like A and you move your arm all the way up, all the way down, and all the way to the side, or trying to make gestures that represent this truth. So the embodiment is another way of being able to embody this truth. So I will absolutely honor the request for fun homework, but I want you guys to get together your materials so that way you're not going to be frustrated. And also I will share when it's relevant. I have a whole recording that's all about energetic anatomy. I did a whole little 1-hour drawing lesson to learn how to do it. So the value is deeper learning and also fun. And also you will begin to build an image that looks exactly like that, instead of just pointing to it here. We'll just bring this up on your screen real fast. You will build an image that ends up looking like this, but you're not quite ready to be able to build an image. This is what's in my advanced anatomy class. Where's the one? Oh, it went away. Stop. Oh my God, now I'm just too upset. I'm like, I have that painting. It's right here. Don't get upset. It's right here. This. You're not ready to be able to check out this, which is very, very complex, okay? All right, good. Sorry, there's some notification that's going on right now that is distracting to me. Let me go to my notes so that I make sure that I'm getting through everything that's important. Okay, so just to reiterate, and this is in my notes, and I'll always send out the notes and you have the PDF. Red is always going to be 1, like the unit 1, and orange is always going to be 1/2. Yellow is 1/3. Green is 1/4. Light blue is 1/5. Dark blue is 1/6. And violet is always going to be 1/7. Now let's draw and talk about what is frequency, because all of this has to do with establishing correct language to be able to even talk about these higher dimensional abstractions of truth. So let's say this line represents a beach. It was meant to be a fat line. Let's really see it. Can I just start everything over again? Have a deep breath. Don't get upset. This is a beach. And then this is, of course, where the water comes. And this is the part where you put your beach towel, right? So this represents 1 wave of red. And that is, we'll just write 1, but I'm not going to write all the letters, numbers, just to save some time. All right, so in the time that 1 red wave that's big and giant can crash on the beach, you actually can have 2 orange waves crash on the beach. Why is that? Because they're actually moving faster than the red. That's not the best way of saying it, because you're like, wait, I thought you said they were all moving at light speed. So frequency has to do with not how fast the waveform is moving, but the size of the wavelength. So the red wavelength is 1. The orange wavelength is 1/2, which means that necessarily twice as many waves will pass a particular point, which is the edge of the beach over here, in the same amount of time. And you will always get 3 yellow waves will be able to reach the beach in the same time that it takes 1 red wave to get to the edge of the beach. Getting it? 4 of these green waves, 1, 2, 3, 4, can get to the edge of the beach in the time that it takes 1 big giant red wave to get there. Do it all up, because otherwise we will not feel complete. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 light blue can get to the beach in the same time that it takes 4 the green. 4 of the greens can get there. 5 of the light blues can get there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 of the dark blue waves can get there in the time that it takes 1 big giant red wave to move there. And then let's do 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Can get 7 of these much, much smaller wavelength items to the beach in the same amount of time that it takes you to get 1 big giant wavelength to the beach. All right, so in terms of your physical reality, this has very, very real consequences. For example, in my neighborhood and in my community, all of the stop signs are painted red because you can see them from very far away. And also in my community, some of the fire trucks are red, like the emergency vehicles, but some of them are yellow. And the reason for that is that the red wavelength travels the farthest. It is the biggest wavelength and it travels the farthest. So if you've got a stop sign, wait, let's draw a little stop sign. Here's a little stop sign over here, and you're a long ways away. This is a color that you can see far away, all right? There's also a reason why you will find so many red foods, like cherries and strawberries and all these ripe fruits that are red, because you know why? Because here's this drawn eyeball. You can see them with your eyeball from far away. So I can see the stop sign from far away. I can see the bright red cherries and strawberries from far away. It travels the furthest distance of light to be able to reach your eye. Let's contrast that with blue. Blue doesn't travel very far at all. In fact, that's why we don't have a lot of blue foods. It's why we don't make our stoplights and stop signs blue. And it is why the sky is blue, because the blue frequency, shorter wavelength light scatters more easily than the red and the orange. During the middle of the day, when you look at the sky and it is blue, what you're really seeing are all of these scattered blue waves that are all around that are being dispersed by the thickness of the atmosphere that they have to travel through. In the end of the day, when you're looking at the sunset, or at the beginning when you're looking at the sunrise, almost no blue, definitely no green. Mostly you're looking at sunsets in shades of reds, pinks, oranges, and yellows, because those are the colors that travel the furthest and are able to reach your eye. So the physics of color has a direct impact on your day-to-day experience, on the evolution of plants, on community infrastructure, and on how you build these things. How does this relate to your physicality presence in contrast with the other layers of your being and the other layers of your body? Because you're like, well, if red light travels the furthest, does my body physicality travel the furthest? Does it last the longest? Like, how can we make an analogy? And the answer is that the red aspect of your being, your physicality chakra, has a certain amount of longevity and coherence and formfulness that the other aspects of your body don't have, and they are energy that is more ephemeral, but it is also moving at a faster rate. So I didn't really say this effectively, but in terms of moving through time, your physical body is moving the slowest through time, and your your blue and violet chakras up here are moving the fastest through time. And you're going to ask me questions all about this, and I'm prepared to answer them. But first, I will go to the comments, and then we'll talk all about my little time diagram. But first, let's just stay relevant. Okay, good. Joyce says, funny, you should mention the skin dryness and thirst. My doggy and I are having those issues in Washington State. Girl, it is all up and down the West Coast, and I think it's part of this like weather modification storm system stuff. I know. So when you have a day like this, drink extra water for you and your pups, and put on extra moisturizer, and do whatever you can to try to stay hydrated. It's very challenging to our bodies. Aurelia says, love you, Aurora. Just went through all your earliest Flying Rainbow Lasagne material twice over the past couple of days. Thank you so much. Thank you for being such a committed student. Love received and love back to you. Thank you very much. And Suzuka is saying dry, desiccated skin. Okay, because you know what? I'm just sorry to even bring this up. No apologies, because this is not the path of light. We talk about all the crap. Path of crap. We talk about all the crappy stuff in this class. They spray desiccants. So here we had all these white aerosols. It's not just particulates they spray a desiccant. I think it's glyphosate or something like that, but it definitely is anti-biological life. It's not good at all. So up your detox regimens, everyone, to whatever you can to be able to improve yourself. Okay. So Melissa, thank you for being here. Long-term student says, that is one of the many things I appreciate about your always updated teachings, Aurora, as compared to textbooks or traditional education, which are old books written by dead, rarely getting the much needed upgrades to current events. And Aurelia is agreeing. Thank you so much for that, both of you. And I really do make extra efforts to make certain that I'm not like a regular public school teacher, because what happens with them is they get hypnotized and zombified into their lesson plan, and then they're always teaching it the same way every class, every year. And it's consistent, but I don't think it's necessarily positive, because you can get bored as a teacher, returning students will get bored, and also our lives are recontextualizing so much in light of the real challenges that we're facing. Pick up my thing. This thing over here, all of that stuff we're recontextualizing. So yeah, I would not be a very good teacher if I didn't mention and acknowledge all of those distortions that are happening in our realm right now. Okay, Len, and thank you for being here, says, why do you think people working with chakra, why do you think people think, why do I think people think working with chakras involves witchcraft and demons? Great question. I cannot speak to other people's presumptions, projections, and perceptions. I would say probably it is due to the community that has built up around the concept of chakras. Chakras historically come to us from what in United States is called the Far East. It is actually Asia. That's the area of the Hindu religion and the Hindu empire. The area of Asia is a vestigial outgrowth of ancient Atlantis. All of these different cultures held a puzzle piece of the truthfulness that we all knew from ancient Atlantis. So yes, in ancient concurrent Atlantis, we all know all about the chakras and we can see them and sense them directly. And they're not a mystical, esoteric aspect of self. They're very, as much as you can see my hair, you can see a person's chakras, and we are adept at manipulating them and keeping them healthy. But in this time and place, they are looked at as an esoteric teaching, which is also what you would say like witchcraft and divination. Witchcraft would be considered like manipulation of reality, and divination would be considered like the anticipation or seeing of the future. All of that is in the realm of esotericism. I'm not sure why chakras would be maligned with judgment or association or affiliation with demons, because it's really not about any kind of demonic worship or quid pro quo. So I can't speak to that, but you do open the door to have an interesting conversation now, and that will move forward in this class. So this shape represents the shape of time. And it represents nothing more than time becoming formful by moving in currents within itself. But you can see that there are boundaries, like where I'm placing my pen right now is a boundary. And that boundary is a differing layer or rate that time is moving at. So in the nested chakras, you have time moving at different rates from your physical body all the way up to your violet chakra, the fastest rate. And you also have these boundaries that are between these different strata, layers of your time body. And within those layers, which I call the interstices, we are experiencing negative residual consciousnesses. And we in this class have come up with a fun acronym. Pedro, I think, is here. And I called them for many, many years, those pesky occupiers of the interstices. And Pedro said, oh, those are pooties, Pootis. So that has remained for us as a fun, lighthearted way to talk about them instead of calling them demons. But they are demons. They are what has been mythologically and religiously and culturally referred to as demons in your world. And I used to keep this information to the end of the class so that people would not be inflamed or enraged or poke out their own eyeballs because like, oh, there's demons inside. But there's demons inside. And tomorrow's Halloween, and there's that silly movie where it's like the killer's in your house. It's like the demons are in your house. They're in you. Because where else are they going to be? It doesn't mean that they coexist or take over your behavior or anything like that. It means that this is supposed to be your pristine architecture of time, and you're supposed to have these beautiful flowing areas with nothing impeding the flow of time. But these presences have lodged themselves in these areas, and they are stuck like arterial blockages that are causing diseases in time. And those arterial blockages not only prevent time from flowing effectively through you and through your chakras, but they also imbalance the chakras. So I do not relate very much to the language that people talk about when they talk about clearing your chakras or activating your chakras or thising or thating your chakras. And I definitely do not advocate for chakra removal. And we'll talk about this more next week also. But I would say that I advocate for rebalancing your chakras because sometimes they are at an angle like this. So instead of spinning perfectly around and around and around and being perfectly balanced, like perfectly level, and that at those perfect 90-degree angles, the chakras that have putis or residual malevolent consciousnesses stuck in them tend to wobble like this. And it's exactly like if your car has a flat tire or a wobbly tire, like when you are trying to drive down the road, sometimes your car will shake like this, or it'll drift off to the side and you're like pulling on the steering wheel. You're like, no, 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 go this way, go this way. It's exactly the same when you have putis or residual consciousnesses that are occupying the membranes inside of your chakras, it destabilizes your whole entire time presence, making it more difficult to flow down the road of time. So unconditional love is like this. Unconditional love is like chugging down the road, vroom, vroom, vroom. This is me with my hand on the steering wheel, like vroom, vroom. I'm low riding. I'm like, yeah, I got the music pumping and I'm going in the right direction. Of course, I'm being silly, but unimpeded, fast motion moving through time. That's when you're in your groove, right? As opposed to when you have these putis or residual consciousnesses, demonic presences that are impeding the flow of time. And they can sometimes make your car drift all over the road, where you're like, well, I'm trying to go in this positive, healthy direction, but this thing keeps pulling me over here. It can be negative time cycles. It can be negative social dynamics and relationship dynamics. It can be the literal definition of disease. Disease happens in the body, not because there's something written in your DNA that says, and then on this date, this person got a disease. It's not like that. What happens instead is these residual unresolved pain signals of the cosmos that are these putis are in the interstices of your time body. And a beautiful story is being written for you. Like you're going to drive to the store and have an amazing time and buy some oranges and, eat them in the sunshine. And instead, something hijacks that narrative and pulls you off the road. And then that means maybe you have a flat tire, or like your transmission falls out, or maybe you hit a deer. That's always the saddest thing, when you hit an animal on the road and then, it destroys your car and the animal is dead and you're feeling sad. None of those things were supposed to happen. All of those things are the influence of these unhealthy, unhealed presences making something happen in your life that's not supposed to happen. And those unhealthy, unhealed presences have a very negative impact on the longevity and coherence of your body. So they make it not only that you're not experiencing the events you're supposed to experience, but they reduce vitality, cell-to-cell communication, reduce your natural ability to heal and make new body tissues, reduce your quality of life, like your cognitive abilities, and reduce your emotional truth or your joy or your connectedness. So everything about the Flying Rainbow Lasagne, like in my class, every time when I talk about these negative presences, I'm not just going to leave you with like, yep, the world's a pile of crap. Go home, everyone. Have a great day. I'm like, no, Flying Rainbow Lasagne. This is my response to the crappiness that is in the world, specifically the residual consciousnesses that have been there in all of recorded human history. People think like, why are people so screwed up? Like, why do people kill each other? Why do they rape each other? Why do they get diseases? What do they do? What is psychopathology? So pathology in the body is disease, like your arm is fallen off. But what is psychopathology? That's when your brain doesn't work properly, your mind doesn't work properly, and it leads to all sorts of dynamic destabilizations in your social, emotional realm. And the answer is none of those things are innate to the human experience. All of those things are implantations that are either genetic modifications or the direct result of destabilization of the chakras from invaders. And again, like when I first started this curriculum, I was like, oh, I'm not going to start off on day one and be like, hi, my name is Aurora. The bad news is your planet's been invaded and you're all full of demons. Okay, come to class next week. Like I wouldn't do that. I've been teaching this for a long time. And also everyone who is here in this class is, has the wherewithal to be able to hear the truth. And also this conversation of what I talk about has really escaped its enclosure and is roaming free in the wild. Like lots and lots of people talk about this now, the concept of destabilization, negative time loops, things that are feeding off of your energy. People call it loosh or negative emotional energy. Like this conversation is already in your world. So I have to take less responsibility as I'm not introducing it to you. It's something that you're already aware of. I'm not going to destabilize you emotionally just by talking about this stuff. So please appreciate my authenticity. I'm full on throat chakra here. Authenticity talking about these things. Yeah, we're not holding back in any way to be able to overtly acknowledge the challenges that are in this world. And the response is to Flying Rainbow Lasagna. For many millennia, you have had psychopathology, thought, disease, and other many limiting dishevelments in the non-physical aspect of your anatomy. And Flying Rainbow Lasagna is the response and responsible tool that you can use to transcend those difficulties and to become empowered and to rearrange your reality. But like I said, it's like learning how to play a symphony. It's not fair to expect yourself to be able to play this symphony like that fast. Like, oh yeah, it took a 5 minute, online training, and then I was ready to reshape reality and reshape time directly. Like, you need more training. And a lot of what I'm teaching you with these mathematical portions are essential to the training, to the how-to, because I'm not just going to give you car keys and be like, okay, go out and drive wherever you want. It's like, no, actually, you need to have a very, very specific map of where you are driving. If you're going to work with genetic rearrangement and rectification and change your genetic behavior, you can't just be random and make up a bunch of stuff and then expect it to fit with the music and the architecture of the cosmos. You have to learn the proportions that I'm teaching you, like a child learns your ABCs. Develop a facility with these basic foundational truths that are incremental or that build upon one another into greater levels of complexity, and then embody those truths and make that the basis of your dance. So you're not going to just manifest weird, random, or self-serving stuff. You're going to manifest the exact harmonic truthfulnesses that integrate your life experience into the divine architecture. So when we talk about getting in your car and driving to the store as a narrative architecture, there actually is a right thing to do. There actually is a right series of events where you experience exactly what divine intelligence wants you to experience. And anything else would be considered an aberration or like a dead end or a wrong road or a cul-de-sac. So yeah, you have a very specific mission. You're like, I'm getting on the road, I'm driving on this place to get to this destination. And then when I get there, I'm going to buy 2 navel oranges and a can of coconut milk. And like, that is what I need to do. And there's really no substitution. And that's why being diverted by a flat tire or hitting an animal or any of those things, like those are all non-divine stories that bring you away from the essence of what you should be experiencing in order to achieve spiritual attainment. So we will complete class today with a little bit more sharing. I'm going to draw my special diagrams for you, and then we'll go over those, of course, in many subsequent weeks. But I want to make sure that I'm responsive to your questions, because you're all like, I asked you like 2 hours ago, because I can feel that in you as well. And apologies, I always try to be in the moment, but this question is from literally 2 hours ago. Suzuka, thank you for your patience, says there was a person on YouTube named Athena who had removed all her chakras. She said they were trouble and didn't want them. Are there negative repercussions from doing this? Yes. It would be like saying this. Trimming my toenails is such a chore, very troublesome. I decided to just chop off my feet, and then I don't have to deal with trimming my toenails anymore. That's a terrible idea. Erase that. You don't want that to happen in reality. No, it's a terrible idea. Your chakras are essential to being alive. If you don't have chakras, you don't get to be alive. It's a terrible, terrible idea. Okay, so look, if you have a problem with a body part, you should not simply amputate it or get rid of it or deny it. You should heal it. You should find out why there's a problem with it and then fix the problem. But distancing yourself from or throwing it out the window or getting rid of it doesn't fix it. Although that is very allopathic. Because if you think about how, like, you got a problem with your gallbladder, chop it off. How about your appendix? You got a problem with your appendix? Chop it off. How about your tonsils? Problem? Chop it off. How about a rotten tooth? Problem? Chop it off. Like, this is me. I'm like a crazy doctor. Hey, you got a problem? Come to me. I'll chop it off. Like, no, you don't want that at all. How about heal it? How about fix it? Okay. So this is your chakra system. And you're like, oh, my chakras are all over the place. I'm not feeling that great. How about I just get rid of it? No. Fix it and embody it and claim it, and don't allow it to be inhabited by pathogens, which is really the origin of disease in both your time body and your physical body. And your time body is not just innate and discrete to you. Your time body is connected to all time everywhere. So this is not even the sense of like chopping off your own body parts that only afflicts you, that you are connected to a whole entire giant alive time animal that is called the fabric of time, space, and consciousness. That is what I paint on my paintings here. And it's alive and self-aware. And if you amputate parts of yourself, it affects the fabric of time, space, and consciousness. And say, hey, somebody's chopping off those little things. So think about it like this. What if a subcellular organelle inside of you was having a problem? Like one of your mitochondria is having a problem. And say, I know what I'll do. I'll amputate a part of myself. It's only affecting me. But that mitochondria is inside of your cells, inside of your body. And it's not just affecting, it's affecting you, the metacognitive larger organism. And what if a lot of your mitochondria were like, we're all having problems, so we're all going to amputate ourselves and cut off this part that's giving us a problem. You would die. You would die. You do not have enough mitochondrial activity to stay alive. So it's a terrible idea. It's hugely irresponsible. It's very uninformed. No one should do it. And also, I hardly even believe that someone can do it, because if you removed your chakras, you would literally no longer inhabit time. As I will do with the rest of my presentation today, I will elucidate why that is truthful. But this is your time body, your time anatomy. You need time to stay alive in time. Like you don't need to just have like water and food and, oxygen and be able to go to the bathroom. You need time to stay alive. If you don't have time, you don't have any of those things. Like if you don't have time, you don't have 1 second to bring a glass of water to your mouth or to experience your body processes. Time is the ultimate. It is the ultimate necessity, and it is what is literally sustaining your consciousness in physical embodiment reality. File that away for your entire life experience, for everything that you struggle against. It will end up being one of the most empowering realizations and recognitions. Because when we start to talk about the deeper empowerment of the Flying Rainbow Lasagne, talk about the aspect of entropy, which is literally removing energy and movement through time from ideas, organisms, organizations, creatures, or abstractions that are aberrant, that should not be in existence. So you need time in order to exist. If you unexist something or someone or some aspect, what you're doing is making it no longer have access to time. And that becomes a huge positive empowerment. But it would be hugely self-destructive if you did it to yourself. If you chopped off a piece of your own time anatomy, you'd be like, then you no longer have those words did not work. If you chop off an aspect of your own time body, it means that you no longer have access to that aspect of time. You're destroying yourself. And I don't want you guys to destroy yourself. Although on the most neutral level, I would be like this. Okay, fine. If you want to go destroy yourself, go destroy yourself. It's like dyeing your hair a strange color. Like, go dye your hair purple. Enjoy it. But that's different if it's just your hair. But what if your hair is connected to the larger social presence and the social fabric and other people's consciousnesses? Then I can't say, dye your hair, whatever you want to do, or, whatever, over bleach your hair, make it look really bad. No, I have to care about your hair. I have to be like, do not do that. Deep condition, because otherwise it's going to affect all of us, right? So I should say, well, who cares, Athena? Go dye your hair purple or amputate your chakras. Do whatever makes you happy. Have a fun time. I actually can't do that because maybe she's going to destabilize herself and super over bleach her hair and then look terrible, and it's going to affect all of us. So I have to say, I have always been consistent and warned people, please do not do chakra removals. Please do not amputate your chakras. Please do not pay someone else to remove your chakras or to amputate your chakras. And if you did that to yourself or to someone else, you would pretty much be having a death sentence of no longer being able to inhabit time And that would make me very distressed if you were someone or something that is actually supposed to be in time, right? But if you're not supposed to be in time, then I would be like, just go to entropy fast. But again, my audience here, you're all the best people in the world. I'm not teaching to like anybody who's overtly demonic or demonically possessed. Those are the people that I would say to go to entropy. I'd be like, no, no time for you. Like the soup Nazi, no soup for you. No time for you. You don't get to experience time. You get to poof out of existence. But you're all good people. So I'm like, no, don't remove your chakras. Stay alive. Continue to experience time. And heal or rectify or fine tune your chakras. And then when you run into like, what does that even look like? With attitude. And that's fine, because what that looks like is flying rainbow lasagna. And you're like, well, great, Aurora, because you're telling me that that's not an instantaneous fix and I have to actually work really hard at it. I'm like, yes, it's not instantaneous. It is attainable and you will have to work really hard at it. Okay. Don't worry. And when I joke about your attitude, I'm joking about your attitude. I love your attitude. Never change. Stay you. All right. Chris says, question. Is molecular membrane similar or have any relationship to the mucous membranes? Yes. Yes, no. So the membranes of time are only mildly anatomically related through allegory to things like your mucous membranes or your cell membranes or anything that is a boundary in your physical body. When I do the different sessions that I do in terms of helping people in their bodies, I help them with not only physical somatic architecture, but also all of the non-physical, non-measurable aspects of pure energy that respond to frequency in their bodies. So your physical body has crossover between what is your light body. In your physical body, let's name some aspects of your physical five senses anatomy that have a direct allegory or overlap with your light body or your time body. Beginning with DNA, totally part of your light body, your frequency body, your body of pure intelligence. The structured water that's in your body is a part of your light body. So that's in your nuclei, digestive tract, your eyeballs, around your mitochondria, central nervous system, cerebrospinal fluid. Mitochondria are part of your light body. Your neurology is part of your light body. Your fascia, specifically your microtubuli, are part of your light body because those are little tiny structures that lend structural formfulness to your cells, and they carry biophotons. So any place where you've got collagen and these fibers of collagen that hold up your body, the fascia network, that's your light body. It sends biophotons through your body. Obviously, retinas, optic nerve, optical processing of your brain. See if I missed, I'm sure I missed some stuff. Those are just a few. Those are just a few of the aspects of your physical anatomy. Oh, as cell membranes, definitely. And also the cell-to-cell communication. Pineal gland, I forgot that's a big light body anatomy because your pineal gland orchestrates all of these aspects of your physical body. Sebaceous glands, melanocytes in your skin, that's connected to your pineal gland. And your neurotransmitter production is also part of that as it relates to your neurology. And I'm sure that I got your teeth. I forgot about that. So food goes in here. These are your mouth crystals. They're actually not made for mashing up potatoes or pieces of lettuce or whatever and putting it into your belly to be able to get glucose out of them. They're actually made to be able to access information and connect to different realities. So I talked about your DNA and the dance of your DNA being a connector through different reality structures for you, like determining what timelines you're experiencing. Your teeth are also hugely related to what timeline, what reality you're going to be in, heaven or hell or a paradise or a torment. It's the same physical infrastructure. It can be standing in the same place, but you can be tuned into the frequency of a paradise, which is blissful, unconditional love, la, like you're sailing along, la, I feel so great, as opposed to a hellish torment, which would be chakras are fully destabilized, tons of friction, tons of demonic interference. It's literally the experience of embodiment of hell, that it's not the physical place, it is the experience of what you're tuned in on, and your teeth are part of your light body anatomy, have everything to do with what you're tuned in on. So I hope that I answered your question effectively. I'm picking up the pace too, so I can get everything in that I need to. Melissa says, it makes sense about DNA being affected by emotional states because feeling and emotional states is a natural experience for babies who also have DNA and are not excluded from DNA expressions. Totally. In fact, I'll amplify what you're saying, Melissa. Babies are super wise and intelligent. They are under-recognized and often disrespected in this world because they don't yet have control over their digestive tract. And people look at babies and they're like, yep, like you spit up and you can't even eat regular foods and you're eating baby foods and you poop in a diaper. And so I can't listen to you or learn from you. And they are nonverbal. But on the level of their DNA and their connection to highest intelligence, babies are super advanced. And then they actually go backwards and de-evolve as we teach them to have an individuated ego and to use language and to have cognitive processes that are familiar to your culture. You're actually making them worse, not smarter, not better. But yeah, no, if you have ever had the opportunity to either be a parent and hold a little tiny child, or I'm not a parent, but I've done a lot of babysitting and childcare professionally. And it's a huge position of responsibility and trust also. And holding a little baby, you're like, you get super energized. They have so much wisdom. They have so much emotional presence. They're very, very special in the way that their DNA is dancing and vibrating. It's not just a pheromonal thing. It's not just like, oh, holding a baby feels so snuggly and they smell so nice and they smell like cookies and I love them. It's not just that. They are still in their DNA dance that is the dance of divine connection and eternal life. They haven't learned about death and loss and grief. And it's very energizing to be around that because they're literally embodying these levels of angelic and cosmic truth. So thank you. Beautiful comment. Chris says, wow, this is awesome stuff. Thank you so much for this understanding. I appreciate you. Thank you very much. Thank you for being an awesome student and for being here in our class. Elmer says, why in other aura diagrams, there's different arrangements of colors, different from your drawings, such as the red color is at the inner layer while purple is at the outer layer? Well, Elmer, thank you for your question. Your answer is because a lot of people are wrong. And there is a lot of erroneous information in this world. So the original information came to us from ancient concurrent Atlantis about who and what the chakras are. And it's a who also, because these are all embodiment presences of our light family, our coherent light family. That information, as it came through various different mystery school teachings, esoteric traditions, and religious and philosophical schools of thought, has been diluted and distorted. So we receive some of the original pristine information from ancient concurrent Atlantis, but a lot of distortions and cultural overlays. So there are all sorts of things that I don't connect with, that I don't want to sound unduly critical, but there's different chakra paintings that are from either the world of yoga or acupuncture, and it shows these different like geometric forms, and I don't connect to any of those geometric forms because to me they are projection and fabrication, and they don't have a basis and a foundation and a validity in the truthful flow of energy in the cosmic infrastructure. Like I don't see those shapes or those forms. So at best, I would consider them to be symbolic representations, but I think that they are ripe for misinterpretation and that they're not necessarily positive. Don't throw a bunch of extra flavors into the stew and think it's going to make it taste more accurate. All right. They're definitely extra spices that were added that don't add to the nutritional profile of what's going on. So what is accurate is if you are going to draw a rainbow, the outer rainbow is red, biggest, longest wavelength, and the concentric half circles or other layers go inward towards violet. When you see a rainbow in the sky, that is the optical phenomenon, that is the end result of water droplets refracting light into its constituent elements, there is almost always the primary rainbow, where it's just as I described, red at the outer edge of the biggest arc and violet at the inner edge of the biggest arc. But then you will also find a double rainbow that is the reverse and is more faint. And this is an optical phenomenon that is based upon the water droplets that the light is reflecting within its internal reflections. You essentially get a pale rainbow that is a mirror image, that is not the primary rainbow, that is a secondary rainbow. And that rainbow will have at the outer arc, violet, big, and at the inner arc, red, little. But it's a mirror image. It's not accurate. So actually, this it matters when it comes down to esoteric truth, because when I first came here as Aurora and I would see the symbol of the rainbow, I would be like, oh, like these are my people. These are esoteric truth people. And then I learned that there is backwards rainbow in this world. And backwards rainbow would be people who embody and evidence aspects of psychopathology, which is demonic influence, negative, malevolent influence, unconscious malevolence coming through their behavior. Not positive rainbow at all. So I had to learn, be careful of these backwards rainbows and backwards rainbow peoples and backwards rainbow teachings. All right. And also, while I'm ranting about rainbows, I'm very specific not only about the order, but about the complexity of the rainbow. So if I'm going to wear or use something that is rainbow in colors, it's important for me for it to be red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. If it was a shirt like with stripes on it, I would not want to wear a shirt that goes like orange, green, violet, red, yellow, indigo, blue. I'd be like, that is not the rainbow. That's just like I said, my name is spelled Aurora, not Uroroaa. Like that is not how you spell my name. All right. So I'm very specific on the colors and their order, and that it should be complete. Just if anybody wants to ever make me a rainbow gift or buy me something for Christmas, I would never throw it in the trash, but just like we try to get it right. And also, don't get me wrong. Oh, rant incoming. So I was in like this, whatever. I was actually picking up a friend who had had a treatment at a hospital. So I'm in the area where they have like the kids' hospital, right? And they had all these rainbow colored things and like toys and different stuff. Everything was the wrong rainbow. Everything was wrong. And I'm like, you cannot teach and uplift young people if you start off with the wrong rainbow on every level. I'm like, it's like green, violet, orange. Like that is not a rainbow. These are random colors. Okay, rant over. Aurelia says, OMG, yes, I see cheeky in your painting. Ah, that's so great. Thank you for that. Thank you for that confirmation. And Len also sees the image of cheeky in there. It was not intentional. It just came through. Pedro says that image would look good on a transparent sticker. We'll totally do a sticker one day for you. And Pedro says to put it on a window, mirror, or flat surface. Yeah, maybe we'll do that one day. Lan says, LOL, whimsically obsessed with rainbows. Yeah, exactly. So that's actually something I can speak to, because I was not really aware of how I would be culturally perceived in this world with my full expression of and love of the rainbow. But I learned that there's many different cultural impressions about what the rainbow is, everything from LGBTQ sexuality and gender identity and that level of behavior to things like the human Bible and the story of Noah's Ark and God's promise in a rainbow. Rainbow has all these different cultural connotations. So I've had all sorts of misconceptions when I walk around wearing my full rainbow outfits. Different people thought I was going to a pride parade. Different people have thought all sorts of different things, but don't worry, you are always free and encouraged to articulate symbolic meaning as it is important to you, and not to allow others to impose upon you and project upon you their expectation of what the rainbow is. Okay, so Chris is wondering, is the groove also known as being in the gamma frequency, 40 to 50 hertz? I don't know about the gamma frequency and the different ways that science measures the cognitive ability based upon the EEG system, but the groove is very much, I have to get an image for you, so I have to make silly squinty faces, but I will do it for you. Silly squinty faces coming up now, because I have to look through here, I have to look through here, I have to look through here. I'm scrolling, I'm squinting, but I will get it for you because it's going to be awesome. It's in here somewhere. Here we go. I'm not sure which one it is, and I can't make it bigger. Okay, well, let's bring it all up then. That's pretty good. It's not That's the one. Okay. Prepare for imagery in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so this is a scanning electron microscope picture of DNA with some human artistry added to it. It's relatively accurate in what DNA looks like. DNA does not just look like a double helix or a twisted ladder where there are equal increments between every rung of the ladder. Here you can see that there is some aspects where it's close together and some aspects where it's further apart. Closer together, further apart. Both of these are called grooves, the major and the minor groove. Then you can also see this is a large molecule known as RNA, and RNA literally travels upon these bumpy, convoluted surface, just like a roller coaster travels on a roller coaster track. And it will travel either in the minor groove through around like this, or it will travel in the major groove around like this, kind of like clumping and spiraling along. But when your RNA is effectively accessing the grooves, that it definitely has a feeling state of bliss. When your RNA is grooving on your DNA is behaving in particular ways. It is exemplified by your feeling state of being in the groove. So that's like saying your inner calculations are absolutely accurate. And Lan is saying Cheeky always has a big pause because she knows Aurora will introduce her. Oh, absolutely. And also, Cheeky knows exactly what we're doing here. She knows that this is not just random mouth sounds. And she also knows the sound of the Zoom when it says, like, you know, whatever, like the meeting is over. Like she jumps up because she hears that and she's like, time for the PARK. She knows that that's going to happen. So she's very intelligent. Pedro says, does every being with consciousness have free will? Kapow. The answer is yes. Cosmic law has as its foundation free will. However, you must comprehend that there are many places, including the place where we currently are, where free will has been distorted or diminished or diluted, and we are not truly in a realm of free will right now. It's a bigger conversation. I don't want to swipe it under the carpet or not give full attentiveness to it. But the questions about free will and the architecture of cosmic law and the injustices that you see here and now are absolutely interwoven into the necessity for creating the Flying Rainbow Lasagna. Because I will just say, like, you have been subjected to some bullshit in this world. A lot of cosmic injustice. You should have free will, but you have not had free will. And you can consider the Flying Rainbow Lasagna the pathway to the restoration of your free will. So it's a bigger conversation than just for this moment, but let's keep that going throughout the rest of this semester. The innate connection between Flying Rainbow Lasagna, achieving a higher dimensional state, and the restoration of your free will. Snap. Suzuka says, honestly, I suspected I had demons living inside me back in my 30s. I'm sure I had many. I'm happy to hear anything you have to say. It's actually nice to hear about it because no one talks about it. Good for you. I'm happy that this is considered empowering confirmation of what you have already intuited about your own form and your own journey. And the answer is that everyone who's living in this very unjust, bullshit world has the demons inside of them. And it is totally not consensual, and it is totally not according to your soul contract, and it is totally unfair. And those are some of the circumstances that have motivated me from my presence as an abstraction and as a waveform to embody through the Flying Rainbow Lasagna portal and to bring this as a tool for rectification, because it is not acceptable. What should happen is those demonic presences or those putis, echoes, should be resolved. They should not be living on your chakras. It's like if you moved into a house, you bought a house, the realtor shows you, well, here's the living room and here's the kitchen and here's the bedrooms. And then here's this like weird homeless guy that just sleeps on your couch or sleeps in your basement. And you're like, well, I'd like to buy the house, but can we get rid of the weird homeless guy? And she's like, no, he comes with the house. That's you when you come here and you incarnate as a child. So you get the house, that's your body, But then you also get like weird invaders that kind of live in your basement and your closets and came to you from your ancestry and bad cultural stuff that has happened in your world. It's totally wrong and unjust. No, you should be able to kick out these invaders and not have them inhabiting your home. And that includes your physical body, and that also includes your cultural paradigm and your planet. We'll talk a lot more about the practicalities of this too. This is really just day one of our class, and it is really just an introduction to these concepts. Aurelia is appreciating the crystals, the mouth crystals. Yes. Pedro says, if your chakras get removed, do you hit the GOTA membrane or do you get erased, destroyed, dissolved? So Pedro, we have to hug you because Pedro not only came up with the pooties, but he didn't invent Gota, but he told me about it. GOTA. Game over, try again. It is now time for me to draw pictures. I'm actually so much more comfortable drawing pictures than I am talking, even though I'm very gratified when people are like, Aurora, you're good at talking. I was like, talking is so exhausting. Can we draw pictures instead? Okay, so now I have to draw for you. You know what? I'm not going to use yellow, even though this sculpture is yellow. It's hard for you to see when I use yellow as a color, but I'm going to draw a cross section of this sculpture, which is using a color that is a lot easier for you to see on the screen, because I do know that some of you watch this on like a tiny phone. So that is supposed to be a circle. I'm very self-critical. Just hug me. I need help because I know that these circles are not going to be perfect, and I'm just going to throw the whole thing out the window. That is almost a circle. Okay, it's terrible. So that represents, of course, a cross section of the four vortex. Like here, if I drew, that's a vortex, but of course with four, you've got one here and one here as well. But I'm going to erase those lines because I don't want you to get all confused. Erase, erase. And what we're going to do is we're going to focus this sharing on this quadrant of that yellow sculpture. The bottom quadrant. All right. So I can even scribble away. Yeah. Let's clear your visual field so that you don't get all confused. All right. Just clearing this away, clearing this away, clearing this away, clearing this away, because this is my shorthand of how we talk about time. So you recognize, first of all, that we're just talking about a portion of each chakra when we focus on this. This is deep, deep, deep stuff. And we'll go over this many, many times in class. So first of all, we need to make a big dot right here. This is singularity. Singularity is its whole own lesson that we will continue to talk about, but it is the 0th dimension. It is the presence of infinity. It is the one tiny overlapping space. It should be a tiny dot, like that small, but you can't see that on your screen, so I made it look like a giant dot. But it is really the smallest, tiniest dot that contains everything that can possibly exist. Every single timeline in your whole entire existence, and everybody's timelines of everybody's possible existence runs through that place. And comprehending singularity as an aspect of what we will learn in this curriculum that is directly related to the empowerment maneuver known as the Flying Rainbow Lasagne. But we only have a few more minutes, so we'll have to talk about it more in subsequent classes. This singularity is the doorway that your consciousness both enters into reality from there and returns to there as your destination. It is the source and the destination of your consciousness as your consciousness is on a journey. And of course, I showed you in that larger chakra, you have a figure 8, which would be like a figure 8, all up around here, all up around like this. And that's just a simplification. You have a very complex set of multiple figure 8s through there. But all you need to know for the moment is that your consciousness comes from the source and it comes out into reality, and it's supposed to go like this. Go one up the middle and go back home. That's what it's supposed to do. But that's not what our experience has been like since the hijacking of the chakras and since the distortions of the putis here along the membrane of death. This is the membrane of death. All right. And I'll teach you why that is the membrane of death. So what has been happening in your experience instead is you come here to the outer periphery of your chakras. That is birth. So that represents year 0, okay? And time moves in this direction. in this diagram. And this would be like age 100 plus. We'll just say that could even be up to infinity, 100 plus. And each one of these, to get a different color, each one of these green lines represents a timeline. Now, these timelines are simplified because the timelines actually run in spirals like this, but it's too hard for me to draw it that way so that you can really see it. So I just draw them so that they look like lollipops. And you can see that most of these lines end on the membrane of death. They don't keep going. This is a limitation, like a waterfall, a membrane that cannot get past. And in this diagram, there is only one central core timeline that begins over here at birth and moves through time and then reconnects you here to the source. And that central core timeline is considered to be the timeline of ascended mastery. You do not die on that one particular timeline. That's the only one. In proportions, there are millions or an uncountable number of possible peripheral timelines that reach out to either side of this central core timeline. Literally, every single decision that you make throughout your day is a branching complexity of time that leads you in a new direction. Should I have coffee? Should I have tea? Should I, like eat a cookie? If I eat a cookie, should I have one bite? Should I have two bites? Should I have three bites? Like every single one of these decisions is its own individual timeline over here, right? But there's only one set of decisions and ideal parameters that is this story right here, where you are supposed to drink 2 sips of tea and then have 2 bites of your cookie. That's it. That's the right answer. It is non-negotiable. And it's not because of morality or ethics. It is because of the shape of time. It's because that's how many sips of tea and bites of cookie keeps you in this zone of time. And you're like, well, wait a minute, what if I drink 2 cups of tea? That's it, guys. Then you're over here and you hit the membrane of death. You drink the wrong number of cups of tea, you hit the membrane of death. So what actually happens is you are in a refinery of consciousness. As you begin here at the outer periphery of your chakras, your very, very first entrance into time, you're a tiny baby, you're just born, come out of your mother's vagina, and you die immediately. It's a very sad story. Maybe you got dropped on your head, or maybe the umbilical cord was wrapped around your throat, or maybe a microbe or something like that got inside of your sinuses, and you die almost upon the moment of birth. It's a very short timeline. And then what happens is you circulate back to the beginning and you start again from a slightly different position. So that's over here. And you begin to move through time, except you make different choices. Now, when you're a tiny infant, the level of choice that you can make, the level of, what's the word, like self-direction that you can make is minimal. Really, the choices that are being made are biological. Like, can your body fight off an infection? Can you learn to suckle breast milk effectively? Can you keep your body alive? Because you're not even really like mobile. Everyone else is taking care of you. But your biological processes have to be making the right choices to stay alive. Now, when you start to, so let's say you die, you're kind of circling and cycling back. Okay, you finally, every time you die, I'm making this too simplistic, you have a life review. Like when you die 1 second after you're born, you have a life review. You get to the membrane of death and they tell you like, look, next time, don't let that nurse pick you up and drop you on your head because you're going to die. Different choices made. So you're like, okay, next time, no nurse. And you go through these different parameters, and each time you are exploring a different set of variables or iterations that bring you forward in time. So it really begins to become much more relevant when you are more in control of yourself, like age 2 or so, and you start to become mobile and you're running around and toddling around. That's when you make real choices like, should I run with scissors? I don't know, because on this timeline, you run with scissors and you die. And you then learn, don't run with scissors, or maybe don't ride your tricycle into traffic, or maybe don't go near that giant pit bull, or maybe don't eat that yucky food that was full of maggots, or maybe any of the choices of things that toddlers do, jumping into a pool, anything that makes them die. And you move through your life continually learning about the mistakes and errors that you made, coming back to the beginning, and then making new choices. So, even however old you are, if you are 20, 30, or 40 years old, or we'll just say plus, you're into the level of where you don't want to really know what decade you're in, whatever it is, we respect you. You have done a lot of successful navigation of your own chakras, even to be able to get to the age that you are. So you have already been through this refinement process many, many times, where you have made choices, learned that they were wrong, been reinserted into time within the same incarnation, not multiple incarnations or multiple time presences, but within the same corporeal identity existence. You have learned from your experiences and learned what not to do. And then your goal is to be able to make it to this timeline where you are making all of the right choices and you are able to basically move out of the physical embodiment presence and return to light speed. Now, in ancient Atlantis, everybody did this. Boop, boop, I'm back. That's it. And the whole entire time you knew that you were God. But here you're like, well, I came out and I came here and I got dead. Like all this stuff happens. It is not a direct experience. It is very convoluted. The learning process is torturous. It is very much like the comedically brilliant movie Groundhog's Day with Bill Murray, where you are going through the same series of educational time loops that his protagonist character went through. Although in that movie, it was meant to portray that he was a bad person and he had negative personality characteristics. And as he goes through these many multiple time loops, he's learning how to be a better person. And then eventually he is set free from the negative time looping through his own attainment of better personality characteristics. That is not truthful for all of you. You are all good people. You are all innocents. You do not deserve to be continually tortured in order to somehow be refined into a better version of self. No, this is a BULLSHIT situation. That's not supposed to be going in that way at all. Again, in ancient concurrent Atlantis, we all came here embodied, came into the physical presence, knew exactly who we were and knew exactly what to do, and were able to do it in an unimpeded way. What is happening right now is everybody is having chakras that have destabilizing influences in it that makes it very, very difficult for you to make the right choices. You should be able to see your future. How come you can't all see the future? How come activating your eye of insight is considered to be a huge gift only for special people? Everyone in Atlantis can see their future. It's like being able to have a windshield in your car so you can see the road. Like you never build a car with no windshield. That would be dumb. You would die. This is you guys having a car with no effective windshield, and you cannot see where you're driving in time. And of course, you die many times. And that's exactly like having to play every wrong note on the piano. So this is, here, I just turned on my piano. Here, this is what you're pressing. You're like, is this the right note? That is not the right note. You died. How about this one? Nope, not right. Nope, not right, died. Not right, died. Not right, died. Died, 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 died. I'm not even playing the minor keys. I'm just playing the major keys. Died, died. That was the right note. And we're like, well, wait, I went through all of this negative death experience just to get to the right note. The answer is yes. And then through all of that trial and error, hunting and pecking on the keyboard of life, when what you're supposed to be able to do is read the musical score. When you are a musically literate musician, you don't have to guess and you don't have to play by ear. You're like, I know exactly the right note to play because I can see it written on the musical score. And I'm going to play this note right here, and it's exactly the right note for me. And again, there's no quibbling, there's no negotiation, there's no buts. That's just the right note. So if it was about how many cups of tea to drink, it's just that's it, 1 cup of tea and 2 bites of a cookie. That's the right note. And you don't argue because you can see it with your inner vision. Having that inner vision activated is essential for being able to avoid death and avoid suffering. And it was one of the first genetic modifications that was done to humanity to bring you into a world of very unfair death and suffering. So, Flying Rainbow Lasagna makes it possible for you to reactivate your insight. And in order to do that, you need to get plenty of love. And in order to do that, you need to tell your daily waking intellect to like shut the F up so that you can get your money together to be able to make this work. So your eye of insight to be able to see through time is very similar to one of these big expensive telescopes that you have in your world right now. And you have to book time on a big giant telescope. And it's a big deal because these telescopes, they cost millions of dollars. And you can't just be like, I think I'll use them to like watch TV, right? I'm going to direct a big giant telescope at like a TV screen. I'm going to watch The Simpsons. That's a waste. You can't do that. You have to recognize that it took a lot of energy to build a telescope, that everybody wants to look through the telescope, and that you need to have enough energy or gas or currency or money to be able to make that telescope run. So this is like your telescope of your mind, and you should be able to use it to see your own future and navigate reality effectively and know exactly what you're supposed to be doing from moment to moment. The gas that makes this apparatus run is the gas of unconditional love. Love is not love and hugginess. It is love, like a super focused aspect of being focused in time. And the implants at the level of yellow in your daily waking intellect destabilize people massively and make it very, very difficult to get the unconditional love to be able to see up here. And you know who destabilizes through the intellect? The pooties. They are the peanut gallery, intrusive thoughts, and many other forms of definitely synthetic telepathy in our current world that is made by all of this bad stuff. That makes it very difficult for you to focus and accumulate the currency that is needed to be able to activate your inner eye. Because you know what? If you can activate your inner eye, you are a super being. You are a superman or a superwoman. You know exactly what you need to do and exactly where you need to go, and you cannot be controlled or manipulated. And that also includes can't be killed. Because you're like, oh, I see all of these things. Like, if I do this, I'm going to die. And if I do this, I'm going to die. Don't do this. Don't do this. Go down this way instead. So to synopsize, humans at this moment have been flying blind and doing trial and error in order to try to determine what is the correct pathway for them to achieve spiritual attainment. It is not a sense of a moral or ethical recipe that will help you to achieve spiritual attainment. And this is big, deep stuff. And then we'll have to wrap it up because I have to take Cheek to the PARK soon before it gets dark. People talk about spiritual attainment as if it's a recipe, like the 10 Commandments. Always do this, never do this. Do this, this, and this, and you get into heaven, right? It is not a recipe. It is unique to each one of you because you have a unique fingerprint, you have a unique genetic presence, you have a unique soul that is moving through time and is on a journey. And the things that are right for someone else that keep them on the central core timeline to return to their divinity are not the same things for you. So for me, 1 cup of tea, 2 bites of a cookie, right? But for that guy over there, he could drink like 5 cups of tea, right? But no cookies. That's on his timeline. And that's what he needs in order to be able to achieve his attainment. You got it? And so what if I'm following a religious guru that says, thou shalt drink 5 cups of tea? But that's not right for me. That guy would be killing me. If I drank that much tea, I would be going towards the membrane of death, but it's fine for that guy over there. This is why when I teach about Flying Rainbow Lasagna, I teach about total individuality. I teach my dance, and this is a real dance. So for many years, I didn't share it that openly, but now it's really important for people to be able to know what it is and to imprint upon me as I'm doing my dance And when I share my dance with others, I do it in the context that I want each of you to dance in your own individual way. I want you to create your own individual genetic patterns of rectification and have it come through your body and express through your body, through your anatomy, through your cellular structure. You will have your own unique patterns of cell-to-cell communication and metabolism, and the movements that you make and the sounds that you make and how you express will all be different and unique. And of course, that's in the actual dance. How about in your life? I don't require or expect that everybody is going to be like a visual artist and a musician and sit in their art studio doing everything that I do. That's my path to spiritual attainment. But some of you might be like, someone might be an architect, like building buildings. Someone else might be whatever, a professional bicycle rider, and they ride around their bicycle all day long. Like, you might do very, very different things than me. And I have to encourage you to do them and to celebrate those uniquenesses. Cheek is ready for PARK. Come here, girl. We're going to do it really soon, I promise. Because this is not a one-size-fits-all off-the-rack garment. This is a customized set of parameters that you follow through time. So responsible teachers and guides recognize and encourage the unique journey of each individual, because it is not a one-size-fits-all recipe for everyone to be able to follow. And that's also part of the beauty and the unhackability of the system of reality, that because your DNA is so unique and your journey is so unique and your solutions and attainments are so unique, that there's not a way for these evil pooty demon crap heads to wipe everybody out and make it so that no one, can do their thing, because everybody's thing is different. They can't take your thing away from you because everybody's thing is different. So back to Pedro's question. I'll get through all your questions, then we'll take Chiqui to the PARK. The GOTA membrane. Game over, try again. So although we're not sociopaths and we recognize that the suffering is real, we use the example of a video game where you try to move upward in your attainment, in your timeline, and go on a timeline of longevity, but you eventually hit the membrane of death. And then what happens? Game over, try again. I only know Pac-Man. I haven't played very many video games, but Pac-Man, like, he gets eaten by a ghost and then he kind of like schlumps and you hear this sound that goes, and then it's like, time to put in another quarter, and then it starts the song again. Pac-Man's alive again, we're ready to try again. That's exactly what happens, but not with quarters and not with the video game, and your death and your suffering is very real. But when you hit the membrane of death, game over, wah, wah, try again. And that's exactly what happens. Everybody who is a good soul, when you hit the membrane of death and you have your life review, and when it is unimpeded, they show you, here's everything you did wrong. And you're like, I want to have a chance to try it again. Now I want to do it better. And that is exactly what happens. You get reinserted and you try again, and you try it with slightly different recipes, and you screw up again, game over, try again. And you do this many, many, many times, so many times that people become soul weary. And I want you to know, and I'll kind of just like wrap it up on this, you're not required to do everything wrong to then finally get to the right timeline. You can go directly to the right timeline, but you need to be musically literate in order to do so. So that means you have to be able to see with your insight and know, I need to do this, then I will not die. So some people, like, let's use right now in life as an example, people are worried about like pole shift and nuclear war and government overreach and all these different things. Some people think the solution is like, get a bunker, get in my bunker with like a crossbow and a can of beans. I'm going to protect myself from the zombie apocalypse. And that might be pro-survival for some people, but I am not called to do that. I'm like, no, you know what's going to help me to survive? I don't have a paintbrush right here, but I have my little digital paintbrush, a paintbrush. That is my survival tech tool. You're like, Laura, you're not going to be able to build a fire with that. I'm like, I am not going to be on a timeline where I have to build a campfire to stay warm. You got it? My best timeline is a timeline where there is social stability and where I'm able to make my paintings and make my artwork. And that is what I invest in order to follow my inner guidance and remain alive and coherent on the best timelines for me. I thought, and also my music. I'm like, I gotta have my piano. It's for me essential survival equipment. No, I'm not going to make a campfire with my piano. I'm going to play music with my piano. You got it? So each one of you has to choose and determine what are the optimum things that you can do to be on the timelines where you continue to be alive. Some of you might need to stockpile a crossbow and a can of beans, but that would be your own individual journey. And, some of you might want to move to a cabin in the woods or something like that. I respect that very much. So again, you do what is correct for you. I do what is correct for me. And my influence as a responsible teacher should only be to encourage each one of you to see with your own inner guidance and follow that inner mandate with yourself. And when you do that, you will never be disappointed. You will always keep yourself on the optimum timelines. So here's one example, and then I'll get to the rest of your things, your comments. I have a friend from way back when I lived in Woodstock, and she shared with me one time, as people talk and chat about their life, about might have beens, like crucial choices in her life. She used to be like so she was in Woodstock in the 1970s. It was a time when people did hitchhiking and things like that. And so she was like, this young blonde girl, she's hitchhiking around. And she told me that one time she was at a truck stop, she was hitchhiking on an adventure. And this one trucker was like, oh yeah, like I'll drive you to blah, blah place. And she said she went into the ladies' room just for like, whatever, quick, and washing her hands. And she had a total vision of herself dead in a dumpster because she got in this guy's truck. And she was so freaked out by it. She said she wouldn't even go back out through the regular restaurant. She climbed out through the window. So she did not have to re-encounter this person. She literally ran away from him. That is a very fateful choice. She honored her inner vision that said, everything in your intuition is saying, get away from this person. Don't trust them. Don't trust them. You could even say that there was a cautionary tale from the version of herself that didn't know, got into the car, and met a terrible end. This is what happens as we guide ourselves through this labyrinth of time possibilities. When you reach a terrible end, you will communicate that to the rest of you that has potential for life. You'd be like, whatever you do, don't eat that sandwich. It will kill you. Like whatever it is, it was tainted or something like that. Don't get in that car. Don't get on that plane. Don't eat that questionable egg salad sandwich, whatever it is, it will kill you. And you will never regret in your life when you listen to and honor these warnings that come from your peripheral selves, because your peripheral aspects of self are like your feelers in another dimension. And they tell you, it's not safe. Don't come over here. Don't experience this. Make a better choice. And sometimes the choice might be never to try a particular drug, because sometimes people take a drug and it kills them right away. You know what I mean? Like heroin or something, they overdose. Sometimes they say like they knew if they did that, they would have died. Or driving on a dark and stormy night with minimal visibility, they're like, I should never have gotten in the car on that night. You're right. You shouldn't get in the car on that night. Nothing is worth it. Stay home and be safe. Drive to get coconut milk tomorrow. Keep on listening to your own intuition. Now I just talked about very survival aspects. Now let's talk about thriving. You will never regret it if you listen to and honor your inner directives for like, what's your mission in life? If you're like, well, you know something, I really want to be whatever, a musician or an artist, but everybody tells me it's too impractical and I should just get a regular job and I'm just going to be a lawyer. If you do that, you are heading to the membrane of death because you're not honoring your inner guidance for what you need to do. You're following a morally prescribed recipe for what it is to be a good person. You must follow your own path. And you must also recognize that everybody needs to follow their own path. So I can't make you guys be artists and musicians if it's not your path. I can only honor and encourage you to be the greatest version of you that you are, following your own intuition. So the game over, try again membrane. Now let's back to Pedro's question. If your chakras get removed, do you hit the go time membrane or do you get erased, destroyed, dissolved? I would say that if you really removed your chakras, you would instantaneously get erased, destroyed, dissolved, because you would not have a time presence. You would not even have a moment to inhabit, to experience the folly of your existence. You wouldn't even be able to get the information like, whatever you do, don't remove your chakras because you'll die, 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 die. You can't even get that information to yourself because you would no longer have a time presence. You would be like just kaput and gone. This is how important your chakras and your time presence are. And we'll get into a whole question, but just ruminate about this for about a week until we meet again next week. How did these demonic presences even get onto the membrane of death? Do you think they maybe did something that was not very smart and not very good, like along the lines of trying to literally remove their chakras that made them no longer have bodies and no longer have access to time? Something to think about. And now I'm getting silly, but there was like a silly show when you were a kid, like, and that's one to grow on, and that's one to think about. Now go play, but we will play very soon. But you have 8 new messages to be able to read. Okay, yeah, I love what you're saying. Really joking around. Suzuka says, do you take out demons? I have learned how to kick them out, but second, I look away. They come right back and start thinking for me again. Sometimes I say to them, if you don't get out right now, I'm getting Alabar. Very good. So yes, Alabar is a person that I did some work with, and he has his own approaches and maneuvers to be able to fight against these consciousness residues known as demons. The most effective thing that you can do is to take the emotional food away from the demons so that they can no longer be active in manipulating or distorting reality. Taking away emotional food for demons looks like healing trauma. That trauma can be your individual life trauma, family trauma, ancestral trauma, world trauma. We will fully remove all the demons from all circumstances and all chakras everywhere when we heal our collective trauma from Atlantis. That's why we have these problems with our chakras right now. In Atlantis, we had no problems with our chakras. In the moment now, we have many problems with our chakras because of the unresolved trauma of these demonic guys. So the real fixing is healing our trauma from Atlantis. That's a big ask. That's like a big multi-million-dollar project. So in your own life, what you can do that is smaller and more manageable in the interim up to that culmination of total meta liberation for all consciousness is to resolve and heal your own personal traumas, emotional destabilizations, and grief, because that's how they tend to get in through people's vulnerabilities. Also, to restore your own sovereignty through removal of any kind of consent or contract that these demons lie about. That's big stuff in the new age. And so this is also, I want to wrap it up so I can take good care of Cheeky, but it's a big conversation to have for later. The erroneous information in the new age that talks about soul contracts. And they talk about this a lot in terms of like the victim perpetrator dynamic, saying, you victim, you're not a victim. You signed up for this on a soul level, and this perpetrator signed up for this on a soul level, and you're teaching each other lessons. And I hope you can tell from my dripping sarcasm that I don't agree to that. That is not truthful. Removing these erroneous contextualizations for violations. No, you do not have a soul contract to learn from these things, and you are not gaining in your inner wisdom or gaining some kind of spiritual muscle mass by struggling against them or struggling for your freedom. So you need to fully restore your own boundaries, which is to say that you don't want these presences in your body. You don't want them in your genetic, force field. Flying Rainbow Lasagne is one of the ways that you can close the portals that the demons come in through hacked DNA. You transform your DNA back to its pristine, unhacked state. So if you simply kick out the demons, it's just like if you bought a house and it's got some weird homeless guy that lives in the basement, and you say to him, like, get up, get out, like whatever, kind of like shove him out the door. It doesn't change anything about that demon. The demon is still a shambling drug addict, still has no place to live, still has no money. And as soon as you turn your back, he's going to break a window and go right back into the basement. Got it? Need a more effective, permanent approach than the temporary removal of demons, which is what many people do in their fighting against demons and in their exorcisms of themselves or of other people, that it really is necessary to have um, a decisive victory. So not just merely removing a demon from you, but removing that demon from reality so that no one may ever experience it again. It's big stuff. It's not little stuff. And so until you do the full transformation of reality, there's always going to be this continual skirmish and continual cleaning. That's just like, I just cleaned up these footprints. Who walked through here and made these more muddy footprints? More muddy footprints. Like I could spend my whole entire life cleaning up muddy footprints. That would be very unpleasant for me. That is why I have Flying Rainbow Lasagne, which is how to do a decisive victory. And this is what we are doing right now in this world. That's why I'm focusing this semester. We are devoting this semester to all things lasagna, which basically has to do with the removal of demonic, unresolved emotional energy presences that are destabilizing not only individual lives, but your whole species, your whole social and economic dynamic. It has to do with like the Queen of England, the central banks, the militaries, just big stuff. But when you clean that stuff up for real, then you don't have the shambling homeless people jumping back into your basement, which is your body, and making a lot of problems. You are in a spiritual war, and that is what the fight of the spiritual war is about, to be able to really get those emotional residues resolved from reality so that they never come back and that they can never hurt us again. But I don't want you to be too intimidated to fight back because you're like, well, it's too big. How can I do anything? Because I want you to maintain your boundaries. So you begin with your own exertion of your boundaries, and as much as you can, keeping the dirty, gross, homeless people out of your house and out of your basement and patrolling your borders. And if you see them come inside of your house, say, get out. I do not consent. Get out if you have no contract with you and you're continually closing doors. And it's big to be able to do that. And so okay, you asked me about what I do in the session work that I do. Yes, I fight against these demons a lot, and I fight against them in my own body. And I have become very, very strong and very, very good at what I do. But I send them to entropy, which is a decisive victory where they go into a state of non-being. And when you remove them from existence and they're in a non-being state, you don't have to continually remove them or clean up their muddy footprints. But then you also want to make sure that you don't just have the next demon come in, because you can have a big giant battle and you send that guy to entropy. And then it's like, I'm free. But then the next demon comes along and says, you're not free. I'm the next homeless guy. I want to come inside of your basement too. So then you could just spend your whole entire life fighting an endless number of demonic homeless people who want to try to come and live inside of your body. And that's not very much fun either. This is why we're having this spiritual warfare in this world, so that we have a decisive victory, because you deserve to have a life, not just be endlessly fighting against poops and doo-doos. Ethan says, I got to head out. Thank you so much, Aurora. Appreciate all that you are. Take care, everyone. You're very welcome and no problem. And we went over time today, but everything is archived, so you can catch it all. Pedro says, I think I have a procrastination demon inside me. I'm not sure because I keep delaying to check. I think it might be there. I guess I'll check tomorrow. Don't worry, Aurora. We love your squinty faces and rounds. Thank you for loving my squinty faces. And yes, there is actually such a thing as a demonic presence that is all about procrastination. And yes, it does continually prevent its own resolution. It's always like, mañana, we'll do that tomorrow. I'm still going to sleep on your couch for tonight. And we'll get more into this. Don't worry. It's just the end of class for today. Aurelia says, I was traveling within a structure, just like this coiled DNA in my dreams before. The spiraling was infinite, macro and microcosmic. Beautiful. And yes, your DNA is a fractal microcosm of larger structures in reality. So thank you for sharing. That's very magical that you were able to do that. And Aurelia says, I wished I could draw it when I woke up, when I woke, but it would be hard to demonstrate. It would need a sculptor the size of a giant room. Exactly. Some of these visions are too complex and it's too impractical to actually try to make them as a physical embodiment. But that would certainly be a fun effort to try to make. But thank you for sharing that with us. Wait, Pedro says, okay, so if you hit the membrane with or without your chakras removed is the same. Because you're wondering like, well, what if I remove that membrane and I have no chakras? Can I just go directly to heaven? The answer is no. That's like saying like, I'm supposed to run a marathon. What if I just get a bulldozer and I dig up all the pavement and then I don't have to run the marathon because there's no pavement in front of me? I'm like, no, my shoulders go down. No, no, that does not make you win the marathon. That means that you destroyed your pathway, but not that you have actually won the marathon. So without chakras, it's like taking away your, not only your sneakers, it's taking away your legs. Like you can't even run because you don't have chakras. Chakras literally mean wheels, like wheels of a chariot. This comes from a time when people not only were conveyed through chariot, being a charioteer in the Hindu Empire, but it was considered to be a sign of victory. When you have conquered a land, your charioteer may roll across that area and be not attacked by any of your enemies. No arrows will come against you. So what you want to do is keep your chariot, keep your chakras, make it so that they're spinning beautifully and that they encounter no stupid effing gross demons and pooties as you roll across. That is what victory is. Aurelia says, I actually meant to have an extra tooth crystal. Oh, interesting. I always felt it's for a really specific purpose. It just appeared in 2020. Well, that's cool. You got tooth crystal donation. Lan says, what's true healing look like versus shadow work versus suppression? Would you have a workshop on that? I could do a whole workshop. It would be a rant against shadow work and all the things that I do not agree with. So I'll save my true rant against shadow work for a little bit later in the semester, but I will tell you that much of what is considered healing right now is actually spiritual bypassing, and that's my big, and suppression, and that's my big criticism of what this simplistic shadow work is, because it spiritual bypasses by simply saying everything is God and everything is me. Let's all hug. I love you all. Baby kittens holding hands. Let's be friends. And the truth is much, much harder and much more difficult. The truth involves the truth that there's some stuff in your chakras that not only isn't you, it should not be. It should unbe. It should not exist. It is an aberration. It should not, it's inexplicable that it could even be in existence, because everybody is dealing with this. They're like, well, if it exists, it must, it's a flawed logic. Here's the flawed logic. If this exists, it's supposed to exist, and I'm supposed to integrate it and learn from it. And I'm like, no, it's not supposed to exist. You're not supposed to integrate it and internalize it. So in your own digestive tract, you're like, this is a fruit that I'm eating, and some of it is beneficial to my body, and some of it is fiber and non-digestible, and it should be pooped out. And it's not me. It's not the real me. In you, in your life, in your personality, you have to determine what is you and what is poop. That should not be inside of you. And what the new age world of simplistic seekers is doing, and shadow work is doing, is identifying with poop and saying that doo-doos should be inside of you instead of the doo-doos should be released and get them out of you. And that makes me, you can tell from my posture, I'm like, I'm very sad when I hear about that, but I'm also enraged when I hear about that. So I would happily do a workshop on that, and about how to distinguish between your real characteristics versus things that are psychopathological and that should not be inside of you. It's basically, it comes down to setting effective boundaries. Because what if you're like, well, I bought this house and it comes with this weird, crazy homeless dude who lives in the basement. That dude is me too. I'm like, that dude is not you. He got grandfathered in when you bought the house. A lot of these psychopathological aspects of being are not really you. They got grandfathered in from some inexplicable era, and they are part of your world, but it doesn't mean you have to keep them there. You are ordained to kick them out because you're in ownership of your own being. That's boundaries. Thank you. Pedro says he loves the beginning of the lasagna, love the returning and improved lasagna. Thank you very much. Long-term, Pedro, you're a long-term student. Value your presence here so much. Thank you for all of your contributions over the years, and thank you for your encouragement, especially of my rants. Thank you for putting gasoline on the fire, because I'm gonna rant. Snap. And a few more comments. Melissa says, love and heal your chakras. They are bridge to source. Exactly. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you. Of all the things that I've been talking about today, I think that's the best synopsis and a really good note to complete upon. And Aurelia says, not everything belongs in the painting of reality. Absolutely. And a big part of who and what I am as an artist, artists curate their presentations. So, you might do a lot of drawings and a lot of sketches, but not everything ends up on the wall of the museum. A lot of things are crap. That's it. When you're an artist, you get to choose, and you're like, nope, this is not good. This is not good. But it was a step on the journey, and I learned and I grew and I blah, 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 but it's not good. don't show it to everyone. And the things that you curate and you want to keep in existence, you're like, this is what I was really trying to express. And you're doing that in the artistry of your own being. So I'll wrap it up by saying you are the artist of your own life, and your body is a masterpiece, and you get to choose who lives within you, what characteristics inhabit you, how you behave, what activities you do, how you express divinity in the world, and it's unique to you, and not everything that you experience should be in the painting. You should be very comfortable with the concept of erasing or sending to entropy anything that is not part of your true self. And we'll talk about this more also, but when you go through a solar portal, like how experts do star travel, you fly through the sun, it incinerates anything that is not the real you. That's the ultimate quote unquote shadow work, which is really go through the solar portal, go through the sun. You become just nothing more than your essential self. Nothing extra can come through with you. You have no baggage. You are 100% traveling light. And a lot of the things that people have identified with as their own self is not really their true eternal self. It will get incinerated through that experience. So your real aspect of self has nothing to fear from going through the solar portal or having the sun, inundate us with waves of light, but artificial, implanted, constructed demonic parasites have a lot to fear from that influx of pure light, but the real you has nothing at all to fear or be concerned with. Okay, now I'm definitely late. We got to take Cheeky to the park. It's time. It's Cheeky to the park time. Melissa says, thank you very much. To infinity and beyond. To infinity and beyond. Beautiful. And I love lightheartedness and I love jokes. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. You're a beautiful class. Thank you so much for showing up today, for us to be able to talk about these wonderful things. And I only really even scratched the surface. Do your homework. Lesson 1 is complex. It's got 4 parts. We're going to really delve into it. Please return next week and also see about getting your drawing materials together, because I'm going to make you do your ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. Okay? Thank you. You're awesome. Thank you very much, everyone.